Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Funtime Hangout. Hey, what's up, Cody? I am going to try to make this actually fun this time. Sometimes we watch some bummer videos, but, yeah. We're gonna watch a couple bummer videos because they look interesting, but other than that, we'll watch some other things. So, yeah. I'm back here on YouTube. Oh my god. Let's see. Where are my playlists? Why is my screen so dark on here? Ah, there it is. Disappearing Towns, Tales of Anomalous Towns. 6 unsettling Reddit posts. Some of this has, oh yeah, Horrors on the Internet Archive. I definitely want to check that out. Internet Legends. Okay. First we'll watch Disappearing Towns.
Dublin, Wisconsin was a supposedly small town that allegedly disappeared sometime in the late 1980s or early 1990s. No one knows where exactly in Wisconsin it was located, or how it vanished. There are no official records of the town's existence, and there are no mentions of it in any maps. The only records of the town's existence are alleged souvenirs bearing the town's name, and online accounts of people who claim to have had relatives who lived there, as well as a photo of a family supposedly recovered from Dublin. Mentions of Dublin began circulating on 4chan and other online forums in the late 2010s. These discussions typically involved users asking if anyone had any information on the existence of the town. One popular reply was, "You live in Wisconsin, just ask around." Most people born before the 90s will remember the city of Dublin. Some even have shirts, mugs, etc. that reference it. But no other information was given. As the mystery of Dublin, Wisconsin began gaining more traction, more users came forward to share personal accounts. One person, Jamie Ivanov, wrote, "I just learned of all the noise surrounding Dublin, and I think I can add some insight. Dublin was a small town in Wisconsin that housed a lot of military families. My father lived there for a year or two and spoke of it occasionally. The main thing I remember is that it had to do with Project Sanguine in the early 60s. I don't think it was X-Files type stuff, but the town was destroyed after an incident. I thought they were digging up a ton of land for something.
I want it to be X-Files type stuff.
But this is a rehashed secondhand memory from years ago." Another user recounted something similar. "I think you make a good point, but Dublin was very real. My father used to mention it occasionally before he passed, and the only reason I remember it is because I found it ironic that a town named Dublin was populated by almost exclusively military personnel and their families. I will dig around for a trip when back home next in early September. If I remember correctly, the town was built as part of Project Sanguine in the mid to late 60s. Maybe everyone left when the project was cancelled, but I thought something went very wrong. You can only dig up that much turf for so long before you're bound to have problems." Both accounts mention Project Sanguine. Project Sanguine, devised by the US Navy in the 1960s, aimed to create a way to communicate with deep-sea submarines anywhere around the world. To do this, the Navy proposed burying a massive grid of cables under 41% of Wisconsin, ultimately turning its bedrock layer into a gigantic antenna. During the Cold War, nuclear-powered submarines would stay submerged underwater for months at a time, and since there wasn't a good way to send signals to these submarines, since radio waves don't travel well through water, the project would have been an antenna for transmitting extremely low frequency waves that can penetrate through water and reach the submarines. However, the project never took off due to the environmental impact it would have, as well as the potential cost of such a large-scale project. Instead, a scaled-down version dubbed Project ELF was implemented. It involved 2 transmitters, one at Clam Lake, Wisconsin, and the other at Republic in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The project operated from 1989 to 2004. Both users are sharing their personal experiences with the town of Dublin.
Happy New Year to you
too. The town being flooded, either accidentally or purposefully, during the construction of Project Sanguine. However, that couldn't be the case, since Project Sanguine never took off, and so there was no digging involved which could have led to a flood.
Interesting.
As for Project ELF, the cables were strung above ground, not underground, so there wouldn't have been the need for digging underground. Many theories emerged about what might have happened to Dublin, from the town up and vanishing into thin air, to the residents simply leaving due to a failing economy, or a military town that was abandoned right after the operation ran its course. However, evidence points to this likely being an internet legend. There are no mentions of Dublin online prior to 2017, with the first mentions of it starting on 4chan and Tumblr. As for the various souvenirs and the supposed photo taken of Dublin, there's no proof of their validity. It remains unclear whether Dublin actually existed, or if it was some sort of internet legend, born sometime in the late 2010s. A similar story is that of Urkhammer, Iowa.
Whoa.
In 2015, Colin Hudson shared a story
That
of
looks
Urkhammer
like that
on
one
his website,
neighborhood from Silent Hill
Strange
2.
State. The story had apparently been found by his mother while cleaning out her old emails. According to the story, in the early 1920s and 30s, the town of Urkhammer was a standard small town located in Iowa. However, in 1928, aerial photographs of the town showed that where the town should have been, there were only empty fields surrounded by farms.
Whoa.
No streets, homes, or stores appeared in the photos. A week later, a tourist passing through town filled up his car at the Urkhammer Esso station, but just 2 miles outside the town, his gas tank was completely empty. He walked back to the gas station to demand a refund, but no matter how far he walked, the town remained the same distance ahead of him.
What the hell?
An hour or two later, another driver picked him up and replenished his fuel supply. However,
the one part that you walked through
after the incident.
In the remake?
In 1929, the Davenport Clarion Sun-Telegraph reportedly published both these stories, but since the story appeared in the same issue as the Wall Street stock market crash, there was barely any reaction from the public. Throughout 1930 and 1931, Urkhammer remained undisturbed, but saw fewer visitors, the majority of which were farmers trying to make a living by traveling to larger cities. In 1932, Illinois farm families fleeing the Dust Bowl camped near Urkhammer. 2 men from the group pooled together the group's money and decided to head into Urkhammer to purchase the necessary supplies. They headed to the general store, but each time they tried to mount the steps leading to the store, their feet would pass directly through the lowermost step. Thinking there was some sort of plot to prevent outsiders from shopping, the men took a nearby board and decided to use it to get to the store. But to their surprise, this time, their feet passed through both the board and the steps. Terrified, the men rushed back to their camp, informing them of what had happened. The camp didn't believe the men, and decided to send a dozen of the camp to the town's general store. Unfortunately for them, they had the same eerie experience.
Damn.
The group quickly departed from the town, but the story quickly circulated, capturing the attention of a group of state police who were then ordered to investigate the phenomenon. The police headed for the Urkhammer Sheriff's office, and as one of them decided to knock on the door, to his surprise, his hand passed directly through it.
What?
Following this incident, the town began its gradual decline with each
An
passing
actual
day.
ghost town?
Passers-by noted the absence of children playing in the town,
Yeah, it's very
and
cool.
the decrease in houses and barns. Then in 1932, a farmer, Phineas Bumph, passed by the town at dawn with his cargo of produce, only to be greeted with emptiness. Where the town had stood were only abandoned fields and long rotted fences. This story, like Dublin, Wisconsin, seems to be an internet urban legend, considering the first mention of the town was in 2015 on the Strange State website, and the author of the website himself believes the story to be fictional. The Davenport Clarion Sun-Telegraph newspaper that allegedly published accounts of the town never even existed. On January 11, 2019,
hey, what's up, Kev?
Tumblr user Queen Kachidora wrote
Tracy,
a blog post
California.
where they described a recent visit to the dentist. During the appointment, the dentist was surprised by something inside their mouth and asked, "Can I ask you a question? What the hell is in your mouth?" OP was in awe, especially when the hygienist and assistant came over to take a look and also appeared surprised. Many Tumblr users were curious as to what exactly was in OP's mouth. In a follow-up blog post, they addressed the other users' curiosities.
Did that say a wormhole?
OP began by explaining that their hometown was unusually strange. From the outside,
I know.
It looked like a typical suburban town, but once someone spent enough time there, it became clear that something wasn't quite right. A lot of the people were just off. Everyone knew to avoid the farmland surrounding the area, especially at night. Locals called it the Cuts, and people would disappear out there all the time, or get shot at by the especially weird people that lived out there. According to OP,
the children
the
of the
news
corn.
was a thing of horror. The town didn't really have normal crime like robbery. Instead, the headlines were things like, a kid was kidnapped by local residents and tortured in a house around the corner. A random person was chased down and shot for sport in a really nice neighborhood. Someone was to death by a bull while out car shopping. Apparently all these were real. Everyone in town was on
Holy
something,
crap.
and the whole town sat dangerously close to a government site where they tested nuclear weapons and chemical agents. The only reason OP shared all this backstory was to explain that this strange town was where they had gotten their retainer. After getting braces, they were fitted with a permanent retainer on their bottom teeth. Since many other kids their age had the same type of retainer, it never seemed unusual at the time. Years later, OP went to a dentist in a metropolitan area for the first time. The dentist's first reaction upon seeing their retainer was, can I ask you a question? What the hell is that? It turns out, the retainer was some kind of prototype, so rare that the dentist had never seen it before in his life, not in dental school or in practice. Another user, trying my gosh dang darnest, decided to investigate the story further and concluded that the town described was likely Tracy, California. They began by looking into the bullet tag mentioned in the original post. Tracy was the only town with a matching case. Although the man didn't die from his injuries, everything else lined up almost perfectly. To be sure, they dug deeper and found a case involving a 17-year-old boy who had been injured but managed to escape and survive, which matched the other case OP mentioned. The user then found a separate case that matched the shooting case OP mentioned. The user combed through more of Tracy's history and found even more disturbing incidents. Most notably, in 2009, 8-year-old Sandra Cantu was kidnapped and murdered by her neighbor, a Sunday school teacher, who later claimed to have no idea why she did it. Then in 2018, 4 underage boys were shot by 4 teenage boys, one of whom died.
Whoa.
According to the user, from the outside, Tracy looks like a really cute town. But once you dig deeper, you discover that that's actually not the case. In a reply to the post, OP confirmed they did in fact grow up in Tracy, California. Just as OP mentioned in their post, the town is located near a government testing site. Situated 6 miles outside of Tracy is a government testing lab that has been setting off explosives since 1955.
Wow. Wow.
An anon on 4chan claims he found a fake town last year.
Very interesting.
Something straight out of the Truman Show. It was the summer of 2018. Anon was on a cross-country road trip, hitting up national parks. One night in central or southern Utah, things got weird. It was around 10 p.m. He'd been driving since about 6 p.m. and the night was pitch black. No moon, no street lights, just the road illuminated by headlights. Anon decided to find somewhere to crash for the night and planned to pull off at the next exit. Eventually, he spotted a town glowing faintly in the distance and turned off onto the first pull-off he'd seen in over an hour. The road was completely unmarked and unlit. It didn't show up on the car GPS, and there was no cell service either. Still, the town was clearly visible straight ahead, so he kept going. The road turned to dirt for about 5 miles. Just as it reached the outskirts of the town, it turned back into pavement. Businesses and houses started showing up immediately. That's when Anon realized something was off. The streets were completely empty. No people. No parked cars anywhere.
Yeah, I saw that.
For
I've
some
watched
reason,
a couple of
jazz
videos
music
about
was
it.
being softly pumped through the streets. Not loud, but just loud enough to be heard. From a distance, the town had looked to be about 7 blocks wide, but it had every major fast food chain Anon had ever heard of, and 7 hotels lined up on the main street. Inside the town there was still no cell service and still no GPS location. Anon decided to get some food first. He pulled up to a KFC. The lights were on and the doors unlocked, but the place was completely empty. Same thing at Jack in the Box. He finally tried McDonald's. Inside were 2 workers, a cashier and a cook, both of whom looked visibly annoyed by his presence.
Of course it was
They
McDonald's.
took his order and handed over food that looked like nuggets and fries, which were distinctly non-McDonald's nuggets and fries. Anon left and started looking for
They're
a place to
non-franchised,
sleep.
that's why.
First going to Hampton Inn, the parking lot was empty. Inside,
They just
a
have the
very annoyed
name.
person told him the hotel was fully booked.
You can do that.
Laquita, the front
If you
desk
have like the
worker,
name
looked
of the
exactly
company
like
but you're
McDonald's,
non-franchised, you can serve
now
anything you
wearing
want.
different clothes. The parking lot was also empty, and the hotel was also fully booked. Anon then headed to Holiday Inn Express. The parking lot was also empty. The guy
Plastic
behind
car.
the desk was clearly the McDonald's
Plastic cab?
cashier. Surprisingly though, they had rooms available. Anon asked, "Weren't you just at McDonald's?" The guy replied,
Plastic car.
No.
So do you
that's
call
my
that
brother."
number and a plastic car
Anon
shows
didn't
up?
even question it anymore. He took the room. Inside, there was Wi-Fi, but nothing loaded. He showered and crashed for the night. The next morning, there was no breakfast in the lobby and no other guests in sight. Same McDonald's guy was there at the front desk when he checked out.
That's awesome.
Anon asked him how to get out of the town.
You just have a
The
lot
guy
of jobs,
simply
okay?
said, "Same road you came
Guy's
in
like,
on."
I gotta make money
Anon
somehow.
decided to grab something to eat before leaving. The town was still playing smooth jazz, Still no one on the streets. He went through the McDonald's drive-thru. The woman at the window handing him his food looked exactly like the woman from the Hampton Inn. He ordered a McGriddle and black coffee. She handed him a microwave egg muffin, and what he guessed was instant coffee. At that point, Anon was too weirded out to argue. He got the hell out of there through the only road in and out of town. About 3 miles down the same 5-mile dirt road, he noticed something strange.
You got my order wrong.
A big metal wire fence on either side of the road in the middle of the desert, both sides meeting in a large, motorized gate. It was open when he passed through, but as soon as he drove past it, it started closing behind him. Eventually, Anon hit pavement again. A road sign said he was on Route 62, but he could have sworn he turned off from Route 89.
Ooh.
Now there were mountains between him and where he remembered coming from. Finally, his phone got service again. He tried to search for the town. Nothing came up. None of the charges from that night ever appeared on his card. He told some friends about the experience. One person suggested it might have been Richfield, but Anon was sure he was farther south, and besides,
Spooky.
Richfield would have at least charged him for stuff. A user on Tumblr provided context to the story, claiming that OP stumbled onto a government training site. Major agencies like the FBI and CIA supposedly maintain small, fake, but fully built and realistic towns for training exercises. According to the user,
or they
people
just
in
use
town
small
were base
towns like
staff,
here
and
because
they
they
were
do
angry
that shit
at
all
OP
the time.
because they'd have to fill long and tedious reports about a civilian getting onto that site. One example of one of these fake towns is the FBI's Hogan's Alley, located in Quantico, Virginia. The town was designed by Hollywood set designers to resemble a real small town, even including a bank, a post office, a hotel, homes, and other facilities, although most of these are prop-filled sets or disguised academy facilities. The purpose of this town is to train new FBI agents and teach them investigative techniques, firearms skills, and defensive tactics. Actors are hired to play the roles of bad guys, as well as innocent bystanders, while recruits are immersed in diverse scenarios, including criminal investigations,
there's another one.
police standoffs, raids,
Cool.
among other things.
Yeah. Oh, no. Go back. I want to watch that other one. Here we go. Go to the end of this. Give this a like, by the way. Where'd the audio go? There it is. Okay. There we go. Portlock, Alaska. Oh, I accidentally muted it. Let's see.
Unsettling and unexplained events. Residents abandoned it in the 1940s. Located in Port Chatham Bay on the southern edge of the Kenai Peninsula in southern Alaska, the town was established in the early 20th century as a salmon cannery. Its residents were mostly of Russian and Alaskan native descent, working as fishermen, lumbermen, miners, and cannery laborers. Strange events soon began to plague the area. In 1905, cannery workers reportedly left town after encountering something in the woods, which they couldn't describe, though they returned the following year. In the 1920s,
I like spooky
rumors
stuff.
spread of a bipedal creature haunting a nearby mine, and residents reported entire trees being torn from the ground. In 1931, a logger named Andrew Kamluck was found dead, apparently struck on the head by a huge piece of logging equipment, something far too heavy for a person to lift or swing. Although there was blood on a nearby crane, Andrew's body lay 10 feet away. Hunters tracking moose reported coming across 18-inch footprints. One account described a scene where hunters, while tracking a moose, discovered matted down grass and signs of a struggle, followed only by deep, man-like tracks leading towards the fog-shrouded mountains. Over the following 2 decades, locals claimed that numerous mutilated bodies washed into the bay, torn apart in ways that no bear or wolf could have caused. Others, however, insisted that only one body was ever discovered, a cannery worker who had gone hunting and was later found dead in a stream flowing into Port Chatham. The town residents were tired of living in fear of this creature, and by 1949, they fled the town overnight, leaving their belongings behind. Decades later, in 2009, the Homer Tribune interviewed Melania Helen Kell, who was born in Portlock in 1934. She explained that for many years, an Ontunuk, a Bigfoot-like creature, terrorized the townspeople, prompting her parents and many others to abandon the settlement when she was a baby. However, her cousin Sally Ash, who served as her translator, later disputed this account. Speaking to the Anchorage Press, Ash claimed that Kell had fabricated the story because she was tired of being asked about it. Still, Ash
She's like, I'm just going to make up some bullshit.
Though she described it as non-threatening.
So it's exciting to people.
I think he's part human. He lived with people and then didn't want to be around them anymore, so he moved to the forest. away from everybody. He started growing hair and looked like a Bigfoot. Scary. My
Nice.
uncles, my grandfathers, they all talked about him.
Hell yeah.
He's old, he's tall, he's strong, he's hairy. He lives in the woods, and you can tell when he's getting near. Despite the stories of strange deaths and disappearances, no newspaper archives mention them. The only recorded death from Portlock to appear in print was that of a man killed in an accident in 1920, with no additional details provided. The actual creature forcing residents to abandon the town is compelling. The reality is more mundane. After the construction of Alaska Route 1, Portlock,
Of course it
along
is.
with other remote communities that were inaccessible by road, was gradually abandoned in favor of more accessible towns.
That makes sense.
While not officially a town, the city of Racine, Wisconsin
Ooh, I
has
like
become
that
the
house.
subject of numerous conspiracy theories online.
Pretty lights.
One of the more unusual claims suggests that Racine and its surrounding areas are home to a vampire cult. The
Hell
supposed
yeah.
evidence comes from several crimes involving vampire-like behavior reported over the years. On January 16, 1998, 39-year-old Philip K. Buck was charged after hosting a gathering where he reportedly encouraged a teenager to let him consume her blood. On December 21, 2010, 17-year-old Matthew Lovren was arrested at Horlick
That's
High School
weird.
in Racine after reportedly harassing female students, drinking their blood, and claiming he was a vampire.
Yeah. Okay. Alright.
Several vampire-related crimes. There's no verifiable evidence linking them to an organized vampire cult.
You know
in
how
Racine or
YouTube likes to
elsewhere. As it
disconnect.
stands, the idea
fun like
remains
that.
nothing more than conspiracy theory without conclusive proof. In addition to these crimes, there have also been alleged vampire sightings in Mineral Point, Wisconsin, spanning several decades. On March 14, 1981, local police officer John Pepper was investigating vandalism at Graceland Cemetery when he encountered a tall figure wearing a black cape and a white painted face. As Pepper approached, the figure turned and leapt over a 4-foot fence before vanishing into the darkness. The following day, officers found footprints leading up to the fence, but none on the other side. 23 years later, in March 2004, residents of an apartment building reported being harassed by a
Vampire
figure sitting
milk.
in a tree outside. Witnesses described it as matching the vampire seen in 1981. When police arrived, the figure leapt from the tree and fled, disappearing behind a 10-foot cement wall. The vampire was allegedly sighted again in July 2008, when Brandon Hines and his girlfriend Jamie Marker were fishing off a jetty. They heard something climbing beneath them and soon saw a pale-faced figure with dark hair, wearing a Dracula-style cape and suit, pulling
Can I just say one thing? I hate when people say the word figure like that. I can't stand it.
itself onto the dock. Hines
It's
threw his
figure.
flashlight at the figure before fleeing with Marker to their car. When police later arrived, the couple's fishing gear remained undisturbed, but the flashlight had vanished. On a 4chan thread asking about the spookiest small-town stories and myths, an anon replied with the following. I grew up in a small town in West Virginia, less than 1,000 people in it. Next to my hometown, literally like 10 minutes away, is a town
Sweet,
called
dude.
Winfield. There was a high school there, I think it's abandoned now,
Draculas.
that was pretty large.
Don't get them
The
Draculas.
principal had an infant son that passed away, and he looked to an alien cult called the Raelians to clone his son. In part of the chemistry wing of the school, he cordoned off. Eventually,
I think
the
that
feds
last
got
story
wind of
was
it
just some
and shut
weirdo.
it down. This story seems to
Just
have
some
a basis
weirdo
in
hanging out in the
reality,
town.
though the details are somewhat different. Shortly after losing their 10-month-old son in surgery to correct a heart defect in 1999, politician Mark Hunt and his wife Tracy began approaching scientists about cloning their deceased son using preserved tissue samples. Hunt explained that while he knew a clone would not restore their son, a duplicate child might provide some solace. The couple eventually enlisted the help of a French biochemist, Brigitte Bosselier, a member of Clonaid, an organization founded by the Aurelian movement to pursue human cloning. Clonaid appeared to be the only group at the
that's a
time
real
willing
thing.
to attempt cloning from the cells of a deceased person. Hunt rented space in the Nitro Community Center, a former
Wanna
high
drink
school
some
building in a
Clonaid?
small town in Nitro, West Virginia, where he set up a lab. He paid Bosselier several $100,000 for the project, but after only a few months, with little apparent progress, and under increasing pressure from the Food and Drug Administration over the legal and ethical concerns of human cloning, Hunt shut the lab down.
Oh.
He soon cut ties with both Clonaid and Bosselier, later claiming they were more interested in promoting the Raelian movement through the press than in actually pursuing the cloning project. The Raelian movement, or Raelism, is a religion founded in France in the 1970s by Claude
Tom
Vallon,
Noonan? What the hell?
Aliens believe that life on Earth was created by a group of humanoid extraterrestrials called the Elohim,
Yes.
who arrived roughly 25,000 years ago and used
That's
advanced
right.
genetic technology to create humanity from their own DNA. According to their teachings, after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima in 1945, humanity entered an age of apocalypse, in which humans must choose whether to use science for creation or destruction. If the former is achieved, then the
that's
Elohim
why.
will return to Earth to share their technology with humanity and establish a utopia.
I was like, why does he have those
Aliens do not
clothes
believe in
on?
an afterlife, teaching instead that immortality can be achieved scientifically, particularly through cloning.
It's an Asian thing.
For
Okay,
this
that's
reason,
why.
the movement established CloneAid, which it promotes as the first human cloning company, as a step toward achieving eternal life through science. Back in the 60s, the town of
Wacky
Warminster in
aliens.
Wiltshire,
Wow,
England,
hey.
was the subject of a series of strange sightings and unusual experiences.
That guy
The
was
first
going
widely
backward on that
reported
bike.
incident came from Mildred Head, an elderly woman who was awoken in the early hours of Christmas 1964 by an odd noise. She described it as sounding like twigs brushing against roof tiles, which
Oh,
grew
boy.
louder until it resembled giant hailstones pounding on her house. Assuming there had been a storm, she got out of bed, only to find that the night was clear. Soon after, she heard a humming sound that grew louder and then faded to a faint whisper. Later that same morning, Marjorie By was walking to church
Yeah.
when she first heard a crackling sound.
What?
As she approached the church, she experienced what she described as a sonic attack. According to her account,
That's right.
sudden vibrations came
Man, we've been
overhead,
doing
chilling in
backward over here
intensity.
for years.
Shockwaves pounded at my head, neck, and shoulders. She claimed she was pinned
You
down by
only do
invisible
forward
fingers of
shit.
sound, before managing to push forward into the church and escape the strange phenomenon. Around the same time, Roger Rump, the town's postmaster, also
Roger
reported
Rump?
hearing an odd humming tone.
What is with these
alongside a loud
names? Mildred
clattering,
Head and Roger
as
Rump?
though roof tiles were being torn off and slammed back into place. These accounts were published by journalist Arthur Shuttlewood in the Warminster Journal. Following his coverage, more than 30 similar reports came forward. Among them was a group of soldiers stationed about 4 miles outside Warminster, who claimed they were awoken by strange noises that sounded like a chimney being ripped from a roof and
Wow.
scattered across the ground. They insisted the sounds were unlike any aircraft they knew. In early 1965, a resident reportedly discovered a garden filled with dead pigeons, though the cause of death was unclear. About a month later, witnesses described hearing high-pitched droning noises before a flock of pigeons suddenly fell from the sky.
Oh.
Local pets were also said to react with panic. One woman claimed her family cat went into a violent frenzy as sound waves rattled their home. By the summer of 1965, reports of UFO sightings began to accompany these strange noises.
Yeah, that sounds
One
like
family, Patricia Phillips, her husband and
they're
their
using
son,
acoustic
claimed to see
weaponry.
a fiery red, cigar-shaped craft hovering above the local
I
church.
think that's what it's called.
Others described glowing orbs that hovered silently before darting away at great speed.
Yeah, there we go.
One witness even reported feeling intense pressure in her head while observing one of these crafts. On August 27, 1965, a public meeting was held at Warminster Town
Yeah,
Hall
that's what I was
to
trying to
discuss the
think of.
ongoing events,
Yes, that.
which locals had begun calling the Thing. Following this, reports of sightings surged. The most famous came from Gordon Faulkner, who managed to capture a photograph of supposed craft. His image was published in the
Thing?
Daily Mirror, and within weeks, thousands of curious visitors traveled to Warminster, hoping to see the phenomenon for themselves. Newspapers quickly dubbed it the Warminster Thing. However, by the early 1970s,
It's just the Warminster
reports of
thing.
UFOs and
Hey.
unexplained phenomenon Warminster began to fade. None of the later accounts came close to the mass sightings of the 1960s. Theories have since been put forward to explain the events. One suggests that residents were experiencing mass hysteria, which could explain why the sightings were concentrated in a short time
Bullshit.
frame. Another theory points to Arthur Shuttlewood, the journalist who first reported and compiled many of these accounts, since he was often the primary or sole source
Mass
of these
hysteria.
reports. Some believe he may have
No.
exaggerated details
Oh, that's
or
cool.
influenced the spread of the phenomenon. A final theory proposes that some form of military activity, possibly testing sonic weaponry, might have been responsible for the bizarre experience.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was trying to think of. Sonic weaponry. Sonic weaponry. But yeah, that's like, yes. Mass hysteria. I hate that explanation so much. God. What is it? It's mass hysteria. Oh, okay. Cool. Alright, so I want to watch the... Did a real 1993 tragedy inspire
The
FNAF?
Chuck E. Cheese massacre. On December
Wow.
14th, 1993, a Chuck E. Cheese in Aurora, Colorado was closing for the night. It
Wow.
was just before 10 p.m., and 5 employees were finishing their normal shift routines after a late-running family birthday party. Sylvia
Hey, Ninja
Crown,
Turtles.
19, cleaned the salad bar. Ben Grant, 17, vacuumed the carpeted dining area. Colleen O'Connor, 17, assisted with closing duties.
Exactly.
Bobby Stephens, 20, stepped outside for a smoke break. And the night manager, Marge Kohlberg, 50, remained in the office, counting the day's receipts. Outside of work, each of them were living ordinary lives. Sylvia was balancing her full-time job with classes at Metro State.
Well, I don't
and
like the
even
way this
went
guy
shopping
talks.
with her best friend, Carol Richens, that same day. Before clocking in her shift, Carol shouted, "I love you," as she left. Ben is a high school junior and a member of his school's wrestling team. Colleen was distracted that night as she had recently
Oh yeah, she was
discovered on a break,
distracted.
3 hours before,
See, that's what I'm talking about
that her
right there. He
parents
just
were
did
gifting
it.
her a
Distracted.
car. Bobby wasn't supposed to work that day, but he needed the hours and cash, especially since he had a 7-month-old baby boy at home and the holidays were fast approaching. Marge, the night manager, acted like a mother to the crew.
A mother?
And recently moved back
Acted
to
like a
Colorado
mother?
from California with her husband Mel.
Yeah,
to escape
that's how they
the
talk now.
violence in
They just say
Southern
shit like that.
California.
It's not
All of
stream
them
anymore,
were
it's
expected
stream.
to leave within a few minutes to
Or
return to their
construction.
homes
It's not
and
construction, it's
livelihoods.
construction.
What they were not expecting was a monster lurking in the dark. Just an hour before, around 9 p.m., 19-year-old Nathan
Distracted.
Dunlap
It's like,
entered
shut
the
up.
Chuck E. Cheese and ordered a ham and cheese sandwich and played an arcade game. Nathan had worked at the Chuck E. Cheese as a cook back in May, but was fired in July after an argument with his manager over his scheduled hours. His brother Garland also worked in the restaurant on the weekends. In the following months, he had repeatedly stopped by the restaurant, but was very bitter over his firing. He intended to get even. Just before the restaurant closed, he hid inside the restaurant at 9:50.
The restaurant.
After the restaurant closed
The restaurant.
at 10:05 p.m., he exited the restroom with
Totally.
a .25 caliber semi-automatic pistol. At the same time, the animatronic stage show continued its programmed music inside the dining room, a mechanical soundtrack playing in the background. He came up behind his first
How many
victim.
views does this have?
Sylvia was shot in her right ear.
Is this person making
The
money
monster
off of this?
quickly moved to where Ben was vacuuming,
Let me see. Hold on.
shooting him near his left eye. Colleen saw him
147,000
coming and knelt
views.
in front
So
of
this
him,
person
begging
probably
him
made
for
money
her
off
life.
this video.
She was shot through the top of her head. Bobby, after finishing his smoke break, had heard the sharp cracks,
restroom.
but
Yeah.
figured it was his
Restroom.
co-workers popping balloons and returned to doing the dishes.
That's
After
what they
hearing
do
a third
now.
Crack, Bobby saw the monster
It's so
barge into
annoying.
the kitchen. Taken aback, Bobby muttered hello, but could only watch as the monster, smirking and staring at him, raised his gun and shot him in the jaw. He sprawled to the floor as he dropped the dishes
This
as they
voiceover
clattered
sucks.
along the floor. The monster moved to the
I don't care.
office and forced Marge
I'm gonna
to
be
open
mean.
the
This
safe.
voiceover
She
sucks.
complied and was promptly
This is what I'm
shot
talking
in the
about. Listen how
ear.
bored he sounds,
Took
too.
a bag and stuffed it with $1,500 worth of cash, keychains, and Chuck E. Cheese game tokens. Upon seeing that Marge was still moving,
No pop
he shot
filter either.
her
I heard
again
that
in her
plosive
other ear.
there.
6.25 caliber shell casings dotted the floor as the monster darted out from the restaurant with his bag of stolen cash and lives. Except one was still alive. After being shot, Bobby was briefly unconscious and played dead on the floor. After seeing the monster
how much these are?
walk past him,
These
he
pop
quickly
filters?
got up and sprinted out
They're
the
like
door,
$4.
past mortally wounded Sylvia. He scrambled to the nearby Mill
I have
Pond
two, in
apartment
fact. I have the one
complex
on the
and
microphone,
pounded on
and I have the one in front of the
until
microphone.
Someone answered, who then promptly called the police.
Hawaii Emergency 911.
Listen, I have a man who's been shot at my house right here. He came from Chuck E. Cheese. He claims there's been a lot of people shot there.
Turn around and call in for Chuck E. Cheese.
I hate shoddy bullshit
He
like
was then
this.
hospitalized
It makes
at
me not even
Denver
interested in
General
what he's talking
Hospital
about.
in fair condition. Sylvia was not as lucky, as she was also sent to Denver General Hospital and declared brain dead, passing away from her injuries the next day at Aurora Regional Medical Center. When authorities arrived on the scene, they
Authorities.
found two bodies
When
in the
authorities
restaurant's
arrived.
hallway, a third in a room off the hallway, widely believed to be the showroom, and a fourth in a manager's office,
Fourth.
with no signs of struggle. The manager who had fired him was not present during the incident.
I don't want to watch this
anymore. The monster had fled to his girlfriend's place.
I don't care. Let's watch horrors found on analog TV. Something Sinister. This guy's good. I like him.
In the early 2000s, a television segment called the Miss Butterface
that takes me right out of the video.
On the Howard
it really
Stern
does.
Show. The idea of the competition was for a group of judges to select which of the female contestants had the most attractive body and least attractive face. The winner would receive a $25,000 cash prize.
Hey, Hitman. We're sponsored by Hitman.
Brought out with a bag on their head in order to conceal their face.
What the shit?
As each of the contestants stepped up one at a time, the judges...
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is quality. This guy is good. I watch his videos all the time.
Would crack jokes and begin one by one rating the contestant's body. After this,
he has pride in what he does.
Of the contestant,
yeah, I know.
Revealing their face. Even for audiences in 2004, the show was quite shocking. And earlier this year, a clip of one of the contestants in particular would resurface on a number of platforms across the internet.
Let's all gather around and learn some personal information about Butterface Stacy.
I would rate my body at 10. I would rate my face 4. The thing I'd like to change about my face would be the dark circles under my eyes and the pale.
As the first contestant, a woman named Stacy, walks out onto the stage, the judges make derogatory remarks about her body before rating it on a scale of 1 to 10. During this time, the audience whistles and calls out to her. The judges unanimously praise Stacy's appearance, but things quickly change when she takes the bag off.
And now, Stacy, take off the bag. Here we go, and let's see the face.
Is that a speed bump on the way?
Stacy, it's got to be hard when the crowd starts.
What's wrong with her?
Stacy, it's got to be tough when the crowd starts freaking out when you take the bag off your head. Is it hard for you?
No, not really.
How did you end up here in the Butterface? Did some guy tell you about it?
No, actually, my friend Candace entered me into it.
Wow. Did she tell you what she was doing?
Huh?
She looks fine.
What Butterface was all about?
She just told me you had to have a perfect body with
a bad lid?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go to our judge, Ralph. What do you think of the face? 10 being the worst face on the planet.
While the judges continue with their ratings on Stacy's face, we watch as the light is slowly drained more and more from Stacy's eyes.
Oh.
The crowd boos her.
She has pretty eyes, too.
Makes an array of gagging noises. And though she claims that these reactions from the judges and audience don't bother her, Stacy's body language tells a different story. This moment, where Stacy takes the bag off her head, would begin going viral
look at
on
that.
TikTok and X. And while in some of the darkest corners of the internet, the crude comments picked up right where they left off, most viewers sympathized with Stacy and wanted her to know that what happened to her all those years ago wasn't okay.
Yeah.
But as people started attempting to track down Stacy, they came across some disturbing
That's not even cool.
Including a number of people that claimed Stacy had ended her life following the episode.
I believe it.
Ever since I started writing videos like this full time, I found that at the end of the day, I sort of need an activity to wind down. I've
This is an
always
ad
loved
read, isn't
playing
it?
mobile games.
Yep.
No money. Only I've been playing different games so that new system of cards on a picture to check mine, but the functionality is completely the same. Make sure you don't miss.
Oh, I'm so freaked
Here we go.
There's something inherently strange about footage shot or screened using analog technology. It's the low picture quality, the
What is this
fuzziness
shit?
and static. Looking at footage shot on analog instantly brings us back to a certain point in time. This poor quality, unique to analog television, has to do with the way in which the analog signals were transmitted. While digital TVs use ones and zeros as a part of their data encryption, analog television was much more vulnerable. Analog used a type of continuous wave when transmitting. If this wave could be overpowered by a stronger, locally generated signal, well, bad things could happen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The Max Headroom guy.
Sports anchor Dan Rowan had just started his Sunday night Bears report when the screen suddenly went black, then came back on with a new unruly presence. Dan wearing a Max Headroom mask.
I'm sure I don't need to go into
That's
detail
wonderful.
about this footage. The Max Headroom incident is one of the most infamous TV hijackings ever recorded. While creepy in its own right, the incident is just one example of how easy it was for individuals to hijack an analog signal. But there's another incident you might not be so familiar with. Imagine you're laying in bed. The TV just across the room has been playing for a while. You find yourself dozing off ever so slightly. But then, through your hazy vision, you notice the footage on the television
Here comes Max Headroom.
twist and contort
Rickroll.
before something weird happens.
Huh? What the hell is this? Are they going to talk about the zombie apocalypse one? That one was awesome.
The footage playing on the TV is of a Canadian series called Mayday.
Oh.
While the visuals seem to remain the same, the audio has seemingly been replaced with a man repeating the phrase, "Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord." This incident dates back to 2007, right in the middle of the war in Iraq.
That's weird.
The audio playing seems to be of a male voice with an American accent. Though a mystery at first, it would later be revealed that the dialogue was taken from a news broadcast of a truck being ambushed during the war. The audio playing on repeat is of a soldier praying for his life. Perhaps instances such as these are why some genres like analog horror have found such a big audience in the past years. Projects like these bring out something nostalgic in us all. A memory from when we were kids, a dream, or maybe a nightmare. It might sound silly, but growing up as an only child, I watched TV religiously. I can even remember the moment when television switched over from analog to digital.
Really?
This was a
That's
big
weird,
shift
man.
for people. It was the gateway to the television experience we
That
know
sounds like
today.
a
better picture quality, TV guides,
screen reader or something.
Seemingly endless options.
Malfunctioned.
You can actually find quite a few videos and playlists on YouTube documenting the shutdown of analog TV and a number of sign-offs left behind by some stations affected by it.
Like a text-to-speech. Yeah. That's funny.
Most of these stations concluded their analog run with the national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.
It's hard to watch these clips nowadays and not feel a little bit put off by these final messages. It gives off a certain feeling similar to old emergency broadcast system tests, like the world is about to end, or things as we know them to be will never be the same. And it's not to say that today we don't experience similar instances to this. There's nothing quite like receiving an Amber Alert or severe weather warning on your phone. But analog television is where it all began.
Horizon.
And now, Stacy, take off the bag. Here
Oh,
we
cool,
go.
they're gonna talk
Let's
about
see
it
the
again.
face.
The Miss
That woman's supposed to be
Butterface
ugly.
Competition, an annual event hosted by Howard Stern, is about to announce its winner. The title of Miss Butterface 2004 would go to a woman named Michelle. And for Michelle and the rest of the contestants, the night would soon fade into nothing more than a memory. But the internet does not forget. Upon this heartbreaking clip resurfacing, of a contestant named Stacy, word would soon go around that Stacy was now dead. Stacy's supposed death was just one of a number of theories being passed around the internet. Immediately, investigators began sifting through obituaries, news articles, and anything that could confirm this disturbing outcome. But no solid evidence would ever be found, and the investigation began to take a new direction.
Oh, God.
Crazy, because one of these women is now homeless. I just saw a viral video of someone feeding her. Find Stacy. Stacy, we love you. You were gorgeous. Someone must know Stacy. She resurfaced years later in a short clip of homeless people being interviewed. The overall consensus from viewers across various platforms was that Stacy was now homeless.
Okay, man.
Her fall from grace attributed to this now infamous television moment. The full theory was that Stacy was a model living in Las Vegas, where this Miss Butterface show was filmed. As she mentioned in the episode, her friend had signed her up for the competition. In need of a job, Stacy agreed to go through with it. This decision would eventually end up with her being humiliated on live television and subsequently ruined her modeling career. Now she was either dead or somewhere on the streets of Las Vegas. But it was only a matter of time before she would be found.
Oh.
The Miss Butterface competition is just one example of how different television shows were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of disturbing things while making videos.
Yeah, for real, man. That's what I said.
On stage,
she's got very pretty eyes and everything, too.
Is really difficult to watch. In reality, the
is
aforementioned
it a clown?
first contestant, Stacy, was just one of many women who
There's just a random clown in the audience? Cool.
Competition. But for one reason or another, the internet has expressed interest in Stacy specifically, curious about her current whereabouts after she was reportedly seen homeless on the streets, or even worse. Given the location of this particular television segment, Las Vegas, we might be able to assume that Stacy at one point or another was living in the city. We know that she was a model of some sort as well. Unfortunately, these couple details weren't going to be enough to find her. We had to look a little deeper. When screenshotting a moment from Stacy's episode and running it through an image back search, I was met with countless posts and reposts of the same viral television moment. Some of these searches led me to the name Stacy Hayes, a model and TV show host. But a quick look at her Instagram will debunk this theory fairly quickly.
That's not her.
But included in these image search results was a link to a video supposedly containing the most up-to-date footage of Stacy. There is a YouTube channel under the name Fatty the Survivor. The channel features content of a man cooking and giving away food to homeless individuals in Las Vegas.
Aww.
This clip, posted to Fatty's channel, is suspected to show Stacy.
That's cool. Is that her? That's not her, is it?
You don't want barbecue?
Wouldn't she be older, though?
I didn't play no more. Excuse me, hot fries coming in. Coming in, hot fries.
Yeah, that's all we got. We got 5 options for you, man.
You don't have salad or water or anything?
We ran out of water and we forgot the carrots and the celery.
You have no juice or nothing?
Sorry about that. Trying our best.
You do an excellent job.
Thank you.
The woman in the clip is never named. In fact, the video that this clip is a part of is just under 50 minutes long. There is no emphasis placed on her whatsoever. If this is in fact Stacy, it's honestly a miracle that anyone even found this. When looking at the homeless woman in the clip, she does share a striking resemblance to the Stacy that we know from the Miss Butterface competition. The facial features are very similar. Her light skin, bright eyes, and
Her
hair
eyebrows,
color,
too.
from what we can see in the clip, could even be a match as well. And while some users on the internet believed that they had found the woman that they were looking for, all was not as it seemed. This television episode that introduced the world to Stacy was filmed in mid-2004.
Yeah.
Though her age was not explicitly stated in the episode, I think it's safe to assume that at the time of the recording, Stacy was most likely in her mid to late 20s.
That's what I said.
This would make her around 50 years old today, a figure that, when viewing the footage from Thaddeus' channel, doesn't seem to add up. The fact of the matter was, the woman that found the clip
for real.
did so using advanced.
Well, there was a rumor that she actually killed herself because of it. I was like,
Video went viral.
that makes sense.
Scouring the internet trying to find Stacy. I didn't know about this video until one of my friends sent it to me and said, "You're really good at finding people." I searched everything. Reddit threads, Facebook, using AI apps just to try to find her face anywhere. Unfortunately, I believe I have found her.
Oh.
We ran out of water and we forgot the carrots in the cellar.
This video was unfortunately filmed in the summer of 2025 in Las Vegas, Nevada, the same place the Butterface competition took place. In addition, my facial recognition software says it's a match. I can't help but wonder where she would be had this not have happened to her.
I know.
Trauma does this to people.
Dude, he looks good
I
now.
don't think it's entertaining to be so.
He got his nose fixed and everything.
Given
He
that
lost
the
a bunch of
software
weight. He looks
only had
great.
footage from this television segment to go off of, I believe that the outcome made using the facial recognition software was incorrect.
Yeah.
The footage that the software was using is of a woman from 20 years ago. To say that she would appear exactly the same in 2025,
that's what I said.
Stretch. There's no denying that the homeless woman here shares a definite resemblance to that of Stacy, but it's a resemblance to Stacy 20 years ago. Without any more footage to go off of, it seemed like the search had come to a standstill. With the homeless theory debunked, it seemed more and more likely that Stacy might have actually died sometime after the recording of this episode. But then something changed.
Oh.
As it is with many models, users began to speculate that Stacy was simply a stage name, and that by searching under this fake name, the results would be limited to this viral television appearance. But with so little to go
Yeah, because why would you use your real name?
anyone begin to guess the name of a woman that hardly anyone knew anything about?
Yeah, dude, for real.
The answer, as I would later find out, was hidden away in the countless comments left on posts claiming that the aforementioned homeless woman was Stacy. Amidst all the rumors and speculation was one individual with some pretty undeniable evidence.
Oh boy. This is. Oh!
This comment, left behind by a TikTok user named Chantel, shows a photograph that appears to
I believe
be
it, I know.
by none other than Stacy herself. She used a fake name for the show. This is her. She isn't the homeless person people are saying she is. She commented on a post upset that people thought she was a homeless person after a friend told her about being viral. The photos left behind by Chantel all appear to be legitimate. Not only does this woman in the photographs share an obvious resemblance to the Stacy we know, but the age also appears to add up as well.
I was like, she's probably
We
fine.
later find out from Chantel that Stacy's real name is Heather. Heather isn't very active on social media, but visiting the Instagram given by Chantel, it did in fact lead me to what appears to be a legitimate Instagram. For the sake of Heather's privacy, I am not going to showcase any other photographs or videos of her taken in recent years, but I was happy to find out that her life seems to be normal. The woman who had once hit rock bottom now had a family, children, and a fresh start. It would seem like all the rumors that her life had somehow fallen into shambles after this tragic television moment couldn't be further from the truth. Despite the death of analog television in 2009, there are still a number of people across the internet using the antennas on their analog devices,
Cool.
attempting to find something. Sometimes it's radio signals, other times it's strange noises, but
Back
more
to the
often
Future.
than not,
Hell yeah.
the results are nothing sensational. Just static screens and lots of buzzing noises.
Hey, yeah, man. See you later.
These
Thanks for
static
stopping in.
blips were a staple
Enjoy
of
your food.
analog TV. While with digital channels you'll be met with screens like this, analog was a lot less forgiving. I remember flipping through channels a number of times only to be jump scared by dead channels like this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that, too.
Enough, in my time researching this video, I've stumbled across a small community of people who have dedicated their time to recreating their own analog television broadcasts directly from their home.
Here's how I make a TV station in my house. I get the two TVs.
Oh, that's awesome.
A contraption and RF modulator. Video from the VCR, that yellow cable, is going into the RF modulator, and the RF modulator is going out to this antenna. This TV has a hidden antenna down there, and this TV has an antenna on top of it. So the RF modulator is broadcasting on channel 4, and then you tune both of your TVs into channel 4, and you are literally watching over the air.
And while from these clips, it may look like a fun, innocent hobby, in many places it's actually illegal to broadcast without a license. Many people who are taking part in this hobby are able to do so by picking a frequency to broadcast on that isn't registered by any organizations. This idea that anyone could essentially create their own television station is an interesting but deeply disturbing concept. While many people today actively choose to watch strange content, imagine sitting in front of an old TV when you were a kid, flipping through the channels only to stumble upon one broadcasting something unspeakable. This is actually the setup to something you might be familiar with, one of the most infamous creepypastas ever written.
Candle Cove?
1999 is the story of a children's television show hosted by an individual known as Mr. Bear.
What is
this character can often be seen on screen wearing a bear suit very similar to what you would see in something like the bear in the Big Blue House.
No, this is not Candle Cove.
Mr. Bear would often be accompanied by other children. The narrator of the show is a boy who happens to stumble across the strange broadcast. In one episode in particular, Mr. Bear encourages the audience at home to write to him for a chance to be featured in an episode. And though the narrator does this, thankfully his father gets involved and notifies the police. Mr. Bear is subsequently arrested, and it is revealed that all of the kids featured on his show had all been kidnapped. The boy, had his father not stepped in, could have been Mr. Bear's next victim. Ultimately, the influence analog television has had on pop culture today is quite significant. So many contemporary television shows and movies are
that was
doing their
VHS.
best to recreate that strange feeling you get when staring into an old tube TV. It's hard to fathom a time before the internet where audiences were confined to a certain number of channels. Perhaps that's something we've lost, the type of connection that comes with tuning into a television show all at the same time. With seemingly endless options nowadays, you're lucky to watch something that you can talk to with someone else. There are exceptions, of course. I love having all these options, but I also love connecting with someone over a movie or a TV show. Now it feels like we're alone, confined to our own personal digital experiences. And that just might be one of the scariest things. Thanks again to Free Cash for helping me out with this video. Once this is posted, I'm going to go check out and see how much I've earned since downloading. And I strongly encourage you to try it out as well.
Oh. Alright, there we go. Let me
The Chuck E. Cheese massacre.
No.
On
I
December-
want to watch your stupid video. Alright. Remove. Let's see horrors on the Internet Archive.
In November 2011, a brand new account on YouTube would upload his first video. It would very quickly garner a large amount of views, amassing 142,000 in its first month on the platform. It was unusual for a video from a new account with no following to get so many views so quickly back in this era of YouTube. But in this case, you can chalk it up to the bizarre
30 days to pay me $5 million.
Its title being, "You have 30 days to pay me $5 million.
To the what? Oh.
The video starts with a first-person view of somebody messing with some crude electronics on a remote control car, eventually showing the audience that they attached a camera onto it.
Oh. Okay.
The cameraman is now on a plane. We get a montage of his flight until we see that he appears to be landing in some sandy desert country.
With those pyramids. Or mountains. Couldn't tell. Probably mountains.
Once he gets into his room, he unpacks all his equipment, which we don't yet know just what he's planning to do with. He leaves the room and we can see, judging on the cityscape, that he appears to be somewhere in the Middle East. He takes a motorbike and he starts driving through the palm tree laden streets.
Oh, yeah. The little face thing. That was cool.
We get another
because it's a scary video.
This time though, our cameraman seems to go quite a bit of ways out of town, until the video fades to black before showing us just where he was traveling to all this time.
That does look yeah.
The cameraman is in Egypt, right by the Great Pyramids. Somebody directs him to an opening in one of the walls. He messes with his bag, and we get a brief glimpse of the RC car snaking through the narrow tunnels of some presumably ancient underground structure, before the video once again fades to black for a final time. Before ending though, we're shown a URL.
NowIknow.com.
NowIknow.com. Visiting this page greets you with a countdown, telling the reader that unless the site's owner is paid $5 million by the time the counter hits 0, he will release the full video. Apparently implying that the camera on that RC car filmed something remarkable in some forgotten passage in one of the pyramids. Interestingly enough, this website was localized into several different languages, and there were social media accounts linked here for just about every major platform at the time. Under both of these rows lays an email
I don't know
address,
if I've heard it.
nameless@nowiknow.com. Judging by the general time period this was all put on the internet, the person behind this video and site might be implying that they discovered some earth-shattering revelation inside the pyramids. The late 2000s and early 2010s was when the show Ancient Aliens held a small slice of the pop culture zeitgeist, and the idea that ancient societies held extraordinary secrets hidden away by today's elites was a common thought in some people's minds. It's understandable why this spread so quickly.
The
This sort of
Anunnaki.
ancient alien conspiracy niche on YouTube was popular at the time,
Or
and
the
it's not
Anunnaki
every
or
day
whatever.
somebody uploads a first-person point-of-view travel vlog showing exactly how they brought a camera-rigged remote control car to the Great Pyramids in Egypt. Even if this was some sort of ARG, it was still a high effort production.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Users on Reddit initially assumed that because of the slick nature of this whole thing, that maybe it could be some sort of marketing campaign for a movie or TV show. But one Redditor noted that the domain information for the Now I Know website didn't line up with other such guerrilla marketing stunts. Nothing related to the domain led back to any sort of movie
Well then.
studio or any corporation at all.
Doesn't mean it wasn't,
This
though.
was in all likelihood something produced by an individual. Maybe there really was something to this. Let's analyze this video. Judging the surroundings we see when the cameraman is traveling to the airport, he appears to be from some Eastern European country. And indeed, doing an image back search on a frame that shows the airport he flew out of reveals that he was departing from Kaliningrad in Russia. We can tell from one of the scenes on the plane that the person filming is indeed a man. We can also do an image back search to reveal that this guy was not actually landing in Cairo, but instead in the resort town of Sharm el-Sheikh, which is about a 500-kilometer drive away from Cairo and the pyramids. This is going to be important.
That's why they were so close.
Whenever our cameraman is outside in Egypt, he always appears to be in Sharm el-Sheikh. Nowhere in Cairo near the pyramids is quite as laid back as this, and every image back search I did on screen caps of the streets he's on always led back to Sharm el-Sheikh. He eventually gets on a motorcycle, drives out of town, and just sort of appears at the Giza pyramids. I don't buy for 1 second that this guy went on a 6-hour motorbike trip along the Suez Canal into Cairo. I did notice that outside Sharm el-Sheikh there was this weird artificial pyramid complex, but I don't think this is where our guy went. He did genuinely film himself at the Cairo pyramids, but what he doesn't show us is his RC car. He implies that he pulls it out of his backpack and drives it through some tunnel, but we never actually see it come out of his bag. The only time we see it in Egypt is when he uses it in his hotel room, which, judging by the wristband he's wearing and the logo on the balcony door, appears to be the Marmara Sabina Resort. By the way, notice how he takes the mirror off the wall before filming the RC car on the desk in the room. This guy went to great lengths to hide his identity. While people are speculating what the point of this video was, an important thing seemed to be absent from the conversation. I want to see what happens. Just who is this guy expecting to pay him $5 million? The way this is presented resembles a ransom situation, but what exactly is being held ransom?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Is the Egyptian government going to pay this guy to keep him quiet? We didn't have to wait long to answer that question.
They're probably like, who gives a shit?
The time on the website would eventually run out, and nobody paid our man, so he released a full video like he threatened to, which was via a download on his website that was quickly mirrored to LiveLeak. As the video starts to glitch, the car eventually gets to a sharp incline. It hovers at the edge for a second, then starts to go down it, with the video wavering more and more the further it gets, eventually cutting out completely. We get a screen of text before the video closes out, telling us that OP failed to get more info on this, but something is going on down there, and he's not going to tell you the location of the tunnel either. This wasn't some elaborate ransom situation, high-effort scam, or guerrilla marketing campaign. It was most likely a hoax made for attention. Maybe it's a fun project some Russian guy did while on vacation at an Egyptian resort. In fact, there are bus excursions to the pyramids from Sharm el-Sheikh, which is where the bus footage we see probably comes from. This video would garner almost 500,000 views before it was mysteriously taken offline sometime in the mid-2010s, along with the website and all associated social media accounts. It was almost as if this guy just wanted to disappear from the internet. This might have been the end of the story, but luckily, it wasn't.
Okay.
You see, it might have seemed like I was showing you screenshots of YouTube, Twitter, and this guy's website, but that's not entirely true. What I was actually showing you were archives of those pages. Mirrored copies downloaded and preserved forever by a foundation known as the Internet Archive. Other than those two Reddit posts, the only website I sourced information and material from for this video so far has exclusively been the Internet Archive. Their mission is to preserve as much of the internet in its current and past states as possible.
I found another out-of-print horror movie on there.
Was it last week? Mine and countless other YouTubers' jobs, and an
it's called ICU.
For the preservation
I wanted to
of
watch it
culture.
again. I was just going to buy it, but it's super expensive.
Curiosities may lie in the darkest depths of this
Found it on there.
What's been stowed away, buried under mountains of archived Google searches and blog posts, tucked away from prying eyes until someone finally decides to summon it into their web browser. Today,
Me too, man.
We're gonna dive into this monolith world.
It's like this crazy magical place.
Twist it around until we see
everybody's like, ECW. Everybody on YouTube was like, oh, he's got an Alan Wake.
Are real horrors that
Stan D thing. That's awesome.
The Internet Archive.
Everybody's talking about how ECW is going to be lost media now. I was like, it's literally all on archive. Every episode ever of ECW is on archive.
In 1996, Brewster Kahle, an American tech entrepreneur, founded Alexa Internet, a for-profit web crawling service that would gather information on different websites and provide information on the overall state of the internet, like global site rankings based on visitors and data use. You can think of Alexa Internet as a sort of digital version of Nielsen ratings, which would gather viewing data for different TV channels and programs. In the same year he founded Alexa Internet, Kale would use the same web crawling technology to put together a non-profit web cataloging service, which he would simply call the Internet Archive.
Oh, cool.
The idea was simple. Instead of just gathering data on web pages, the Internet Archive would instead copy the pages themselves and save them on its own servers. If an important web page ever went down for some reason, it could still be accessed just as it was.
You can go look at like
Archive.
the 1999 version of Slipknot1.com.
The Internet Archive would
I've done that a few
rely on
times.
Brewster's web crawling technology to archive pages. But in 2001, the foundation would introduce
I used to go to that website all the time.
A way for the public to not only easily browse these already extensive archives, but to also save websites themselves to the library, which greatly expanded the breadth of content you could retrieve using this service. There's really not much else to say. The mission is simple: preserve the internet just as it is and was for future generations to enjoy. Although I do want to bring up their headquarters, which is in this old Californian church, and it just looks so science fiction to me. The first thing anybody chooses to do when using the Wayback Machine is to see what the platforms they use now used to look like way back in the day. I'd wager the first thing almost anybody did on this site was to enter in google.com to see what it looked like in the 90s and early 2000s.
That was not the first thing I did.
One thing you might not have noticed though, is that some of these big websites are using domain names that used to exist before the inception of the platforms you associate them with. Discord, for example, may have been launched in 2015, but the archives for Discord.com go all the way back to 1996.
Holy shit.
It was originally a personal website, a self-hosted page on the internet that's essentially the antiquated equivalent of a social media profile, only existing to express the author's thoughts. Facebook.com in the 90s used to advertise some sort of employee indexing service for large corporations. X.com used to be another personal site. TikTok.com used to be a family blog. This one is a little different from the others. It's pretty detailed and well archived despite being 25 years old. There's a lot of information here.
That's amazing.
This family's activities and photos were essentially completely documented on the internet for many years. Back in the 90s, this wouldn't have been a very odd thing to do. The internet wasn't nearly as large as it is now, but you wouldn't feel like you were exposing your private life too much by documenting it online. At some point though, likely when the internet began to become much more prevalent in our daily lives, the TikTok family would take their site offline, and of course the domain name would eventually be sold to ByteDance. On Reddit though, one user would discover this long-lost family blog deep in the Wayback Machine's archives, and they would make a post about it on the Internet Mystery subreddit, a place dedicated to solving, well, internet mysteries. What's the mystery here, you might ask? I'm not actually sure. It was interesting that TikTok.com used to be a family blog, but I'm not sure if there is a mystery here. Regardless of that fact, Redditors would be quick to find one for themselves. The lost media culture of tracking down the origin to every minute detail of every piece of media created by man drove some of these Redditors to treat this family's private life as a lost media search that needed solving. A subreddit would be created to track these people down. They would find addresses, phone numbers, legal papers, court notices, private photos that weren't on the original website. Other users would be quick to label this so-called search as what it really was: stalking.
I know.
Gang stalking is a delusion that some people have where presumed targeted individuals think they're being stalked by a group of people. It's almost always some sort of paranoid fantasy concocted in somebody's head. But in the case of the original TikTok family, this was by all
the internet's
accounts
been
an actual
around
case
a
of
long
gang
time.
stalking, even if it was just a minor one.
Way before people
It goes
were
without saying
actively
that
using
not
it.
everything in life needs to be tracked down and uncovered in a public manner. Some Redditors would argue that since this family hosted a site with some of their public information for a brief span of time in the 90s and early 2000s, that it was not actually stalking, and they were entitled to know what they were up to now. Thankfully, this so-called
It's not
search
actually
quickly died, and
stalking.
public opinion recently has been much more critical of its existence in the first place, but it goes to show you that sometimes this culture of internet mysteries
probably
that
does.
YouTubers
I
like
wouldn't
me
doubt
directly
that.
contribute to can in some cases turn ugly. The TikTok family site is not the only blog we're going to talk about in this video. Blogs used to be much more common in the early internet than they are now. These days, people either write their brief thoughts on Twitter, or they have a Substack where they act like they're writing op-ed pieces for the New York Times. But 20 years ago, people would write blogs as a sort of public journal, detailing their views and experiences in a long-form way that just doesn't really happen much anymore. The thoughts detailed in this blog we're about to talk about were unusual.
Or they talk about them on
pursued of
YouTube or
something
Facebook
very, very dark. If you go to the Wayback Machine and type in fifthnail.blogspot.com, you'll get a bunch of snapshots from the mid-2000s. Just like the URL suggests, this site is called The Fifth Nail, and it's a public journal written by a man named Joe, who lives in North Dakota.
Yeah, me either.
It starts in late 2003, and the first entry recounts how Joe found out that a 5-year-old girl had gone missing from a nearby town in Minnesota a few months prior. He was so worried about being falsely accused of kidnapping that he decided to look through his logs on Quicken, a personal finance software that can keep track of your budget and spending. He concludes that it would be impossible for him to be accused of any crime on that day because of the purchases he made, which were not done in Minnesota. He goes on to complain about the intensifying persecution of sex offenders and how he's writing this blog for his own safety, because it's just a matter of time before he gets falsely accused of a crime. Oh, and he compares himself to a southern black man. He finished the post by talking about what he ate that day and what he did, which was mostly playing the PC game Delta Force. We can already surmise from this first post that Joe is likely a registered sex offender, and indeed the next few posts seem to focus on the so-called persecution of his kind and the various ways people misunderstand him. He says there's no bad people in the world, just people who do bad things. He says that it's very hard for him to make friends and to meet women because most people stop talking to him once they learn about his past. As 2003
what did he
rolled
do?
into 2004, we get more details about Joe's life. He has cats, and he really likes playing Delta Force. He works in IT, and he watched Return of the King with his neighbor on New Year's Eve.
Was he caught peeing in public? Because you can be listed as a sex offender for doing that.
He rants about the abuse he suffered as a child, and tells us that a crime he committed when he was 16 led to him being put into an experimental treatment program at Western State Hospital in Washington State between the years of 1980 and 1982, which eventually got shut down due to numerous civil rights abuses. He mentions in a following post that he was in jail between the ages of 17 and 38, and outlines some disturbing things about children and adults that I'm not going to repeat here. He continues to rant in following posts that he can't stop thinking about being accused of crimes he didn't commit. He buys a webcam that he can have permanently set up to record his living room
exact
in an effort
camera
to document his moves as closely as possible in the event he ever needs an alibi for a certain day. He mentions the following week that he accidentally recorded himself naked with his webcam and had to quickly erase it, lest he be accused of being an exhibitionist. In following posts, he continues to repeat the same things about committing some mysterious crime when he was 16 and being thrown in a mental hospital. He also seems to keep close track of whenever people go missing in his area so he can verify that he has a solid alibi in the event the police knock on his door. The next week, he talks about enrolling in computer science classes in college, along with documenting and analyzing the various dreams he has. He also compares a law passed in Texas which would require sex offenders to be labeled to 1930s Germany when Jews had to wear armbands.
That's not the same
This
thing.
is the general gist of the blog. Joe talks about college, work, his cats, and the apparent perils of being a sex offender. Sometimes he would document every minute detail of a certain day, and other entries would just include some rambling about his thoughts on a particular topic. In mid-2004 though, things would begin to change a bit. In June, he starts to bring up hallucinations he's been having.
Oh no.
He would wake up at night and hear and see strange things, and also the feelings of derealization he's been having, along with saying that he can't trust his own mind.
He uses Windows Movie Maker.
In July, his worst fears about being accused of a crime are realized when he's charged with some unspecified felony. He stops posting for a month, and when he comes back, he outlines an incident where the police broke down his door and searched his home. Again, he doesn't post for 3 weeks. His only post in September is this.
I'm home Sunday afternoon, nothing to do. Everything being undone. Nobody to remind me. Life is about giving your choices over to God. Chicken pot pie in the oven. Why can others not see the unity of the universe? Why are they so blind in their dungeons?
His posts before may have been unhinged, but they start progressively getting more crazy.
Yeah.
By the time 2005 rolls around, he starts having much more
So
paranoid
this
and
Threads
religious
account
delusions.
found recently.
The ramblings start making
This guy
less
posts
and less
pictures
sense
and
as they
just
go
like
on.
says the most random
The blog
shit.
would stop abruptly in May
Pretty sure there's something
2005,
wrong with him. I'm
and he
not even
simply
joking.
waits.
The demons have taken over.
In this post,
Yeah,
he
Windows
talks
Movie
about
Maker
how
is
he used to
cool.
be Happy Joe, but inside him was a boogeyman, or a demon. He assumed this dark passenger
It's easy.
was
It's
gone,
really
but
easy to use.
It wasn't. It was just
The
laying
boogeyman.
dormant, waiting for an opportunity to jump up and take Happy Joe's place. He concludes the post by saying,
Happy Joe was just dreaming, or pretending to be happy.
this blog on its own is strange and disturbing, but it's what would happen after that really turns this into a tragedy. On July 2nd, 2005, a man and a little girl would enter a Denny's restaurant in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. The staff would do a double take at the little girl. They had seen her somewhere before. One of them would conclude that she greatly resembled the missing child that was being broadcast all over the media. Her name was Shasta Grun, and 7 weeks earlier, her family was discovered dead in their home by police. Both Shasta and her brother Dylan, however, were nowhere to be found. The police would rush to Denny's and take Shasta into custody, and they'd arrest the man who was with her, who happened to be named Joseph Duncan. Or Joe for short.
Oh no.
You see, just 5 days after writing a post saying that demons had taken over, Joseph would enter the Grun family home and kill everybody except for 2 children. He had not known them previously. They were chosen seemingly at random. He would take Shasta and Dylan, and they'd live for the next 47 days in various campsites in the woods. I'm not going to get into any gruesome details here, but Dylan unfortunately did not make it in time to be rescued. The particulars surrounding the Grun family murders and the kidnapping of these 2 children are some of the most horrible things I've ever read. I'm not kidding. Please don't look too much into this, it's truly not worth knowing. After Duncan was arrested, the FBI would launch a nationwide review of unsolved missing children cases, and Joe would be indicted on several other murders which had occurred in the 1990s. He was put on death row for his crimes, but would die of a brain tumor in 2021 before he could fulfill his sentence. At some point during his various trials, people would eventually find Duncan's blog, and they'd leave their honest thoughts about him in the comments section, which would prompt Joe to just delete the whole thing. This blog might not have been much on its own, but knowing the horrible things this author had done and would go on to do gives it an awful significance as a detailed look into the head of one of the most depraved and evil people to ever walk this earth.
Can we go back to talking about how cool the Internet Archive is?
I've stumbled across on the internet, one that would have been lost to time had it not been for the Internet Archive.
Thank you.
The fifth nail is definitely one of the darker things I've covered on this channel, so this next topic might be somewhat of a short palate cleanser. Somewhat. Compared to the fifth nail, Joseph Duncan, just about anything is a palate cleanser, even an early internet mystery that happens to focus on a pretty twisted concept.
Ooh.
In early 2025, a user on the internet mystery subreddit would make a post about a site called eQuerpos, Spanish for e-bodies. They say that around 20 years ago, a friend had told them about the site. Their friend described it as a sort of marketplace for human cadaver parts.
Oh, nice.
OP didn't want to have anything to do with such a website, so they just ignored their friend.
It's like when
the idea lay dormant in the back of their mind ever since.
I heard about a doctor recently that was selling body parts
to load up the
over
Wayback Machine,
PayPal to
type
someone.
in the URL, and sure enough, there were snapshots that lined up with when OP had first heard about the site.
I was like, that's so
Everything
smart,
here is in
dude.
Spanish, but both English and Portuguese translations are offered and have luckily been preserved.
And he wasn't even like
the page is exactly as
smart
OP's
about
friend
it.
described it.
He would just label the body parts like human hand and brains.
$2,600, a male ear is $1,900, and if you're willing to dish out a lot of cash, you can even purchase a full human body for just under $200,000.
Oh, that's a
Each listing is
bargain.
accompanied by pictures of what's being sold and a 5-star rating. They offer information about the deceased person's age, along with their race and continent of origin. If we navigate over to the
Vintage
company page, we
1981.
learn that eQuerpos has been serving the South American market
Like their
since
wine.
1994. You might be thinking that this is screaming hoax, but you should keep in mind that the human cadaver market is very real. We talked about it at length in my Horrors on the Chinese Internet video. There's a large gray market out there for human body parts to be used for medical study and other less noble purposes. It's also important to remember that the early internet was not quite as lawful and well policed as the web is nowadays. You didn't have to use something like the dark web to find a
web
drug
rings.
marketplace or
Oh my
illegal
god.
content.
I remember
You could
web
readily
rings.
find it on the surface web. eQuerpos promises to protect the privacy of their clients, who tend to be scientists and
I used to look for
so-called human body
websites
enthusiasts.
using web
On
rings.
their FAQ page, they mention that buyers should keep
Slipknot
in mind the
websites and
laws in
Halloween
their own
websites
country
and stuff.
surrounding organ trafficking. If we look
Halloween
up
the
black
holiday.
market cadaver hotspots in the mid-2000s, we can find a list that mentions Colombia as a global supplier of illegally obtained human body parts. They specifically say in this article that there are several Colombian-hosted websites that offer human body parts for sale. Could this be one of them that just so happened to be captured and preserved on the Wayback Machine? Let's keep digging. You'll notice that at the top of the page here is a link to another website called calresco.org. This site actually still exists in almost the exact same form
Wow.
as it did all the way
I
back
love
in
it.
2005.
Look at that retro shit.
The page appears to center around the concept of complex systems in science. It's a little hard to understand, but it seems to be talking about systems that have many different components that interact with each other to form a sort of organized chaos. The economy is a good example of a complex system. It's easy to understand on a very small scale, but when it's all put together, it becomes this huge, writhing, interconnected mess. I'm not actually sure what this site has to do with eQuerpos. There's no mention of it anywhere here. If this was a hoax, I feel like this would be an intentional red herring. There's not really much else we can talk about concerning the site itself, so why don't we see what the internet users of 2005
Buy a finger
had to
for
say about it.
$2,000. Hell yeah.
Houses.org, an early internet platform dedicated to exposing the many hoaxes of the old web. One commenter mentions eQuidpos on an unrelated post.
Ew. I just tried ordering an eyeball from eQuidpos. The e-commerce functions don't work.
Huh, that's weird. I wonder why that is. Yeah, this was all a hoax. It was made to promote a mobile phone web show made by MTV in 2005. One that's about a couple of students trying to perform a successful human head transplant. But
God damn it.
That's not actually where the story ends. You see, one thing we haven't talked about are the pictures on eQuidpos.
Yeah.
They're likely showing actual dead bodies, specifically ones that are in a state of pallor mortis, the first stage of death that occurs for people with light skin. It's a specific kind of paleness that occurs in the first 2 hours after death. These images weren't taken from somewhere else on the web, at least nowhere that exists anymore.
Oh, wow.
It's a little dark to think that a major American broadcast network found pictures of people who just died to put up on the internet. If that wasn't bad enough, we can return to the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, MTV
where we
just
can
officially
navigate over
died
to the URLs tab.
a couple days ago.
This section
Which is
shows all
kinda
the
sad.
different addresses that have been preserved by the Internet Archive for a given site. Here, we can see all the different pages we
It was kind of
visited,
dead like
but
a
also
long
some
time
hidden
ago,
ones
though.
that are
But, you
not
know.
actually listed anywhere on the site.
Amateur.html, Asian.html,
Oh.
blonde, drunk, teen.
Drunk?
It gets much worse than this. We don't really have to go over everyone. Now, these snapshots always seem
What's
to
with the
result in
drunk
403
category?
forbidden pages.
Would
While
you
it might
like
seem like these addresses
body
did
parts?
exist at one point in time, and it
From
is
a drunk
absolutely
person?
possible. These also could have been the result of someone trying to hack into the server hosting this
P?
website. One technique to do this is to query as many different page
There's a
URLs
P
as possible
category?
to see which pages exist on a website that just aren't linked to anywhere. You can gain useful information from doing this. For example, we can see an Apache test page on this legal.html URL which tells us that the server is running Red Hat Enterprise Linux.
Oh,
We've
yeah, look
gained
at
some
that.
knowledge about the system hosting this site that we weren't supposed to have. While this is a fairly common penetration testing technique, it doesn't explain why these pages are archived in the Wayback
Oh
Machine.
god, what do those say?
Either somebody in the mid-2000s went and manually entered a bunch of questionable non-existent URLs into the Wayback Machine,
Zoo?
or the Internet Archive web crawlers were picking up on some very concerning stuff coming from an MTV web server. Either way, this is still a solved internet mystery,
Interesting.
just one that has a few dark
That's pretty
questions
cool.
still attached to it. Okay, is your palate feeling cleansed now? Good, because we're about to uncleanse it.
No.
eQuidpos was not the only early internet site archived in the Wayback Machine, claiming to give users access to a human body. Like I said earlier, the Web 1.0 era
Dark
of the internet
corners.
was a lot
Oh,
less
yeah, look at
policed
this.
and much more chaotic than the sanitized major
that's
platforms
beautiful.
we're
Look
used
at
to
that.
seeing now. Instead of posting content to an existing platform, people would usually make their own websites from scratch and host them themselves. Instead of using a search engine, people would use their sites to link to other people's sites, making the internet in this era a true network of interconnected pages. One such page of links happens to be a now defunct site called necrobabes.org.
What?
This 2001 site describes itself as erotic horror for
Why?
adults, and on its main page you can find many different sub-sites created by the different Necrobabes administrators. The content here seems to range from creative writing and gothic art to
neat.
more risque content.
Huh?
The term erotic horror may bring to mind
Yeah, My
sleazy
Bloody
80s
Valentine.
slasher
Woo!
movies, but a lot of the stuff on Necrobabes happens to be much more twisted than that. A lot of these sites are dedicated to dark fetishes, like asphyxiation or pretending to be a dead body.
Ugh.
Some of these sites sell VHS tapes. Some of them are just personal pages hosted by the people involved in this strange community. One Necrobabe site in particular, though, will become infamous for a very depraved reason. The Cannibal Cafe. On this site, you can find a gallery of extreme images depicting some of the bizarre interests common on these Necrobabe sites. You can also find a page where you can apply to be somebody's livestock. And another page called Impalement FAQ that I'm not going to show you almost any of.
Sensual
because
barbecuing?
It focuses on a concept called consensual barbecuing. This is all obviously pretty depraved, but that's not really what we need to focus on. The important thing here is the Cannibal Cafe message board. This is a forum for people who partake in these interests. People on this forum either write posts searching for so-called human livestock, or they write
Are they gonna talk
advertising
about Arwen
themselves as
Muse?
such, like this post.
Mail for sale. I would like to be impaled and barbecued. I need tenderizing first and gelding. Would like to be roasted alive.
These posts are absurd to the point of being funny. The idea that somebody would be interested in stuff like this just seems too ridiculous to be serious. Yeah, maybe some of these posts are indeed just kind of taking the piss, but there is a very real darkness hidden away in this archive.
Slaughter Boy wanted. Are you between 18 and 25 years old, normal build, and healthy? If it is your desire to put an end to your life, but you want something more reasonable to become of you, then come to me. I will slaughter you and turn your body into delicious schnitzels and steaks.
It's a song about this.
This was posted by user Frankie on February 22nd, 2002. It's a very typical post on this forum. The unusual aspect to this post, though, was that somebody would indeed take Frankie up on his offer.
Dear Frankie, I have been looking for an experienced butcher for a long time.
Oftentimes, discussions like this don't make the transition from internet into real life.
Oh, I like that font.
They're just role-playing and fantasy. This situation was different. Only 6 days after the interested party responded to his ad, Frankie would schedule a meetup with him. They both happened to be German. Frankie in real life was named Armin Moose, and the respondent to the ad was named Bernd Brandes.
Armin
They met
Muse.
in a train station in the city of Kassel, and together they headed back to Armin's place. They cuddled for several hours before deciding to act out what they had discussed on the internet. Bernd had very specific wishes of what he wanted to have done to him. He wanted Armin to start with his reproductive organs, so he did, but he couldn't manage to physically complete the act with his teeth alone. Armin then went to a nearby pharmacy and picked up sleeping pills, cough syrup, and alcohol to give to his partner. Upon returning, he decided to use a knife to finish what he had started. Brandes then wanted Armin to cook what he had cut off so they could both eat it together, but Moose accidentally burnt the meat, and it was inedible. He then helped the now severely injured Bernd into the bath, where he lay slowly losing blood. He then got into Armin's bed, where the combination of low blood pressure and the cocktail medications he had taken had him hallucinating and drifting in and out of consciousness. They made plans about what part they would cut off and eat tomorrow, but before that could come to fruition, Bernd would take his last breath. Armin wasn't quite done yet though. He divided the body of his now deceased partner and put it in his freezer, where he would periodically take a piece out and cook it like any other cut of meat. He would continue doing this for 10 months. Armin would eventually be arrested after another user of the Cannibal Cafe forum would report his post to the police, and they found the remaining pieces of Bernd's body after searching his property. Police would also learn that Brandes wasn't the only man Armin had met on the Cannibal Cafe forum. Between 2001 and 2002, Armin had arranged up to 40 so-called slaughter meetings with young men, but the only person he met that was willing to go all the way was Bernd Brandes. The consent Armin received to play out this horrible act was a confusing thing for the authorities. None of this happened under any sort of coercion, and the victim had been a willing participant in all stages of the act. Brandes, though, had taken mind-altering doses of different medications, which may have impaired his ability to consent, and on top of that, killing is never legal even if the victim wants it. Armin Moose would eventually be convicted of manslaughter in 2004, but 2 years later in 2006, he would be retried and found guilty of murder, being sentenced to life in prison. The most disturbing thing about this story is that from the time Bernd and Armin initially got home to the time Brandes ultimately passed, Armin had a camera set up in the corner and had been filming everything. This videotape was the key piece of evidence that would lead to Armin's charges being escalated from manslaughter to murder, and is likely one of the most disturbing pieces of lost media to exist. After Armin was arrested and word spread quickly about the website, the Cannibal Cafe forum would close its doors and would ultimately go offline for good in 2003. If it wasn't for the Internet Archive, we never would have gotten this eerie look into one of the most depraved sagas to come from the early internet.
Crazy.
The Internet Archive has been instrumental in not only preserving these important and disturbing parts of internet history, but also for solving lost media cases. You might remember when they found the location of the background photo back in 2024. That was only because the original site that hosted the photo all the way back in 2004 just so happened to be archived on the Wayback Machine. Our last case for today happens to focus on a similar lost media hunt.
Cool.
The YouTube channel Watch Data is known for producing this very particular format of infographic videos. They're all presented the exact same way. A sliding chart will be shown detailing where certain entries land on the spectrum of a certain topic, like human evolution timeline, which shows the different types of humans in order of oldest to newest. Every video is pretty much exactly like this. This channel probably just has a Premiere template they throw different visual assets onto and can make videos in like 5 minutes. One of Watch Data's uploads happens to focus on a topic that's pretty familiar to me and viewers of my channel: YouTube's creepiest videos.
Oh, neat.
While you might assume the sliding scale here might be something like least to most creepy, it's not actually that.
Yeah.
It's showing you videos
I love creeper in my
order of
apartment.
most views to fewest views.
Oh my god, little baby's ice
This
cream.
is an interesting way to present this topic. It makes you want to watch to the end to see which video has the least views. All the standard creepy YouTube fares here, like salad fingers, I feel fantastic, little baby's ice cream. You've likely heard of most
Sewer
of these
monster,
already.
hell yeah.
But things get more interesting when we get to the end and we start seeing the less viewed videos. And in fact, the last entry on this list has a mere 77 views.
Play 2?
It's called Play 2 and was supposedly uploaded by a channel known as Mother8538. While we don't see the video itself, we do see the thumbnail, which shows a hand holding a lighter. If you search Mother8358 Play 2 on YouTube, you won't see the video from the watch data list. You'll only find other videos talking about it, all of which inform the viewer that Play 2 is considered to be lost media. Redditors will be quick to try to solve this mystery. One user was able to find an Internet Archive snapshot of Mother8538's channel page. Now the video links present here have been archived and neither has any thumbnail, but we can see that Play 2 did indeed exist, and the other videos from the channel also just have one word as the title.
Damn.
Like punish, think, and wait. If you try to take the channel URL from the Wayback Machine and visit it on live YouTube, you'll simply be told that the channel does not exist.
Of course.
This might sound like a dead end, and it likely is. A video with 77 views being taken off of YouTube is going to be next to impossible to find. It would be incredibly unlikely that somebody just so happened to archive it or mirror it anywhere. That wouldn't stop the lost media search though. A subreddit would be created, and the hunt would continue. As you can imagine, in a case like this, just about everything found so far has been false leads. People show up with wild claims that never actually lead anywhere. Some users are trying to identify the carpet shown in the thumbnail. Others are passing off recreations as the original video. For some reason, many people have come forward to claim they saw Play 2 before it was taken off of YouTube, which is a little hard to believe considering just how obscure this video is. The Chinese internet would also get involved, with the community surrounding the case being formed on Bilibili, the Chinese equivalent to YouTube. Here, people would add on to the Play 2 lore by uploading what they claim to be the other videos from Mother8538's channel. Now these are able to be verified because we know next to nothing about the actual content of these now lost videos, but that wouldn't stop people from treating them as if they're real. One user suggested tracking down every viewer of Play 2 to interview them about the clip's content. And here is where I ask, what is the point of all this? This is one of those lost media cases where you can easily argue that the work in question has been fully lost. Even if we generously
Because
assume that
people are
5%
weird.
of the 300,000 watch data viewers actually went and searched for Play 2 on YouTube, that would only give this video 15,000 views before being taken offline. The likelihood that somebody saved it even with that many views is very low. I have videos with view counts like this that have never been mirrored, and I have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Mother8538 had 23. This video is almost certainly gone from the internet, and was it even that interesting to begin with? Do you think the watch data researchers went to great lengths to find an amazingly creepy video
Black
that
Devil
only
Bell
had
from hell.
77 views? I find that pretty unlikely, considering the effort they put into the rest of the research. Like that Mumtaz Begum video only being listed with 3,000 views, despite the multiple mirrors of this video that exists on YouTube,
Wow, yeah.
which have garnered millions of views each. One video near Play 2 in the list only had 600 views. This one just shows a woman crying for 2 minutes. There's nothing particularly unsettling about it. She just seems sad.
Oh yeah. Wait, no. This is the... Isn't there something weird that happens in the background? I swear.
Another video has 400 views, and it's just a mundane Urbex clip that clearly wasn't intended to be scary in any way.
It's like some old ass shit right here, dude. Fucking badass.
Hell yeah, badass.
That's some scrap metal.
For all we know, the Mother8538 video could have just been somebody flicking a lighter. We have no reason to think this video is interesting or holds any sort of significance. So why go to such efforts to find it? Lost media can be really interesting when the work at hand is important in some way or is just considered to be worth experiencing. But why spend energy looking for a completely random, likely uninteresting video that nobody ever saw? This isn't a photo that greatly shaped internet culture or a Lost Beatles song. It's a 20-second video that nobody watched. If you enjoy looking for an inconsequential needle in a haystack, be my guest. It's not my place to tell you what to enjoy or not enjoy, and I'm not going to judge you, but I don't personally understand the appeal. Guys, thanks for watching. You know, I usually like to plug my Patreon, but if you want to throw some money around today, maybe consider donating to the Internet Archive. They make my job possible and are constantly fighting an uphill battle to keep the internet free and open. I'm sure they could use the support. And last but not least, have a good night.
Alright, that was cool. What else is on this playlist? We watched the analog TV one. Oh yeah, we'll watch Weird Internet Legends, but first I've got to take a break to go to the bathroom. I will be right. What's that? They probably do. I wouldn't doubt it because there's a lot of stuff on there that could, you know, either damage them or be, like they could make money off of, and they don't like that. Because it's on there for free. Alright, I'll be right back. Alright. Let's watch Weird Internet Legends. Oh, Nation Squid, he's pretty good.
I know we've got 2 months till Halloween, but I couldn't wait. The 90s were a very interesting time for anecdotal horror. You
Captions.
know, the kind
I
of
love it.
stories that you would tell over a campfire.
Wish more
The
people would
veracity of
caption
these
their
stories
videos.
didn't matter because, well, it happened to a cousin of mine. Would I lie to you? In that time and place, the story was true, because it was so much more thrilling that way. Many aspects of 90s culture embraced this, and that's no surprise. This was a time where the internet was connecting more people in their strange stories than ever before, but was still too new for easy-to-access fact-checking. Our view of the world was now so much bigger, yet so much more ambiguous than it had ever been. Naturally, the 90s bred some very weird and creepy urban legends. Yes, many of these were just fake rumors, but many did in fact turn out to be true. And some are even still debated today. Today, we're going to talk about the strangest and eeriest urban legends of the 1990s. Whatever became of them. Now, I've curated a list of stories that were both very popular at the time, and ones that were a bit underground, but became subjects of scrutiny later on, just because of how creepy they were.
What the hell?
I also thought it would be interesting to put a verdict at the end of each story, determining which ones were real or fake. So let's begin. Now, this first urban legend is a bit more humorous and lighthearted, but I think it provides a lot of insight into the mass spreading of information in a pre-internet world. I am talking about these strange urban legends surrounding Marilyn Manson. Now, the reason many of these rumors surrounding Marilyn Manson are so outlandish is because Marilyn Manson himself is a very outlandish person, especially when he first entered the spotlight in the 90s. His macabre and morbid persona was a culture shock, and many people started to wonder where such a strange act came from. Well, the Wonder Years, of course. Yes, years after it ended, a story started going around that Marilyn Manson played Paul on the period show The Wonder Years when he was a child. For those who don't know, The Wonder Years was a very popular primetime show in the late 80s and early 90s, with the series concluding in 1993, a couple of years before Marilyn Manson's first big hit. The exact origins of this myth are not exactly known, but it's no surprise that it became relatively widespread among young people just because of how absurd yet believable it was. The idea that the most sanitized character of the most sanitized show on TV at the time would grow up to become one of the most controversial and grotesque figures in pop culture is funny and has a realistic twist of irony to it. The pretty striking resemblance between the two gave a lot of credence to this rumor as well. So was it true? No, of course not. A quick Google search tells us that Marilyn Manson's real name is Brian Hugh Warner, and the actor who played Paul is named Josh Saviano, and Marilyn Manson is significantly older than him. But keep in mind, there was no Google during this part of the 90s, and the internet wasn't seen as that often reliable repository of information like it is today.
There was no Google.
People couldn't just
what the hell are
easily
you
look
talking
up what
about?
Marilyn Manson's real name was, or how old he
Some
was
people can't even
from a
fathom
reputable
that.
source. Or
It's
they
funny.
just didn't really care to look it up. The same goes for finding information on the actor who played Paul, or how long ago The Wonder Years aired. This added a lot of ambiguity to these stories, and left people to their own imaginations, especially since a show like The Wonder Years was aimed at an older audience who grew up in the 60s, which is when the show takes place. Given that the show was already 7 years old when Marilyn Manson's hit was first released, a lot of
Good
younger
show.
people
Really good
may
show.
have just assumed that these newer episodes were reruns from way back in the day. Some of them may have even assumed that the show actually was from the 60s and 70s. When you consider all these possible scenarios, the idea that Marilyn Manson was on the Wonder Years when he was a child doesn't become that unbelievable, and the age gap between him and Saviano becomes less relevant. So naturally, it just became one of those rumors that you chose to believe was true, until the internet got better.
I never
and made
heard about that until way later.
But this wasn't the only rumor about Marilyn Manson to appear at this time. Undeniably, the most popular and vulgar legend to
Is this
spread was
the
that
rib thing?
Marilyn Manson, cover your ears, children, had his ribs surgically removed so that he could, enjoy his own company. Practice more of his instruments. Yes, it was just another one of those stories that only enhanced Manson's shock persona. So it didn't seem that unbelievable just based on that. But is it true? No, it is not. Interestingly, in 2000, Dr. John E. Sherman of Weill Cornell Medical College
actually
mentioned that while
I don't know
having
if it
your
got
ribs
canceled
removed
yet, but
could
there was
technically be possible, there's never
a new
been
one with like
any
a different
official
family. It
publication
wasn't
of
like the same
in
family.
any peer-reviewed medical journals. There's also this official response from Marilyn Manson in his 1998 autobiography, The Long Hard Road Out of Hell, where he says that if it were true, he would have been too busy to be chasing Winnie Cooper on the Wonder Years. Childhood ruined. Something I found interesting while researching this whole story was that a lot of people referring to it as the most recent example of modern mythology. I think this tweet puts it best, that the 90s generation was able to use the lack of internet presence to their advantage to spread a rumor that was wild, but just realistic enough to have some suspension of disbelief that was purely anecdotal and couldn't be quickly fact-checked online. The story was true because they wanted it to be. This next one is probably the darkest on the list.
Can't stop with that weird frame rate. It makes me think my capture device is messing up. This video was recorded at some weird frame rate.
Rabbit hole, and I had to include it. It pertains to a very peculiar VHS tape of unknown origin that was sent to Disneyland Resort in Anaheim, California in April of 1995.
Let's look it up, because I want to see if it's even still on. Let's see. The Winder. Yeah. The Winder Years. Wonder Years. Reboot. 2 seasons. No, I think it's canceled. Yeah, it was canceled. Why is this not on dark mode? Ugh. Yeah, it was canceled after 2 seasons. Okay. The Winder Years.
It arrived in the mail with no return address and was received by a secretary. She put the tape in the VCR and was so disturbed by its contents that she took the tape out with a tissue in case there were fingerprints still on it and had sent it off to the FBI.
Wow.
Naturally, the intricate details of what was on this tape was kept on the down low. Other than that, the tape's message had unnerving implications against the welfare of the park. The end of the videotape mentioned the date April 14th, 1995 at 9 o'clock. Fortunately, nothing of note happened at the park when this time passed, but just 5 days later, tragedy would strike
pretty sure it's on Disney
Oklahoma
Plus.
City. A handful of people thought that these events were connected, but it appeared to just be a coincidence.
It's not bad. It's actually pretty
Clinton
funny.
even indirectly talked about the incident during a press conference. Despite its insidious nature,
I watched
thankfully no one was
2
hurt.
episodes
the
of it.
The entire event was concluded to be a hoax. Basically nothing more than just a
I guess
cruel
nobody really
prank.
watched
the
it.
Disneyland Park saw very heightened security on the day of April
well.
14th. The guests, of course, weren't told why. And public information on the incident quickly started to die down. As the years went on, it essentially became one of those stories that had people asking, does anyone else remember this? Did it even really happen? Due to how low profile it was kept, no one was exactly sure of what happened beyond what these newspaper articles published. But then around 25 years later, a VHS tape shows up at a thrift store in Portland, Oregon, and the stars align, as it just so happens to be purchased by a media archivist who digitized tapes and uploads them to YouTube. The tape was labeled with the name Jerry Hill and an FBI case number.
Oh,
the
no
archivist
shit.
had no idea what the tape was when he uploaded it, but internet sleuths were quickly able to put it all together. Jerry Hill was the name of a former FBI employee. It was the tape from this story.
Yeah.
It was all real. It has been uploaded to Dr. Rip VHS's YouTube channel,
The hell?
who was the one who found it.
Yeah, I think...
The video starts off with showing a
I was looking
newspaper
at that,
article
actually.
about
God damn
an
it, I keep
unpleasant
grabbing the wrong
chemical
mouse.
that someone released on the Space Mountain ride that made a bunch of guests get sick. At the bottom of this footage is text that says, "Good boy." The footage then pans to a bunch of old photos of unknown origin that appear to date around the late 19th century. We then see an unidentified person wearing gloves handling what appears to be a bunch of vials and containers of strange liquids and refrigerated objects wrapped in foil. The camera then pans to a clock and calendar showing the aforementioned date of April 14th, 1995 at 9 o'clock. Lastly, we see footage of a busy street in front of what was, at the time, the Disneyland parking lot, with the text "Dead Guest" appearing at the bottom. The tape ends with footage from the Spanish comedy show Camara Infragante, suggesting that this may have been taped over an already existing program. The person responsible for creating the footage
That's funny, they couldn't
has
even
never
use a
been
new
caught,
tape.
and their identity remains a mystery to this day. I learned about this entire thing from a video made by Mike DeForest, who was actually a Disneyland employee at the time of the incident. He even goes on to interview the Dr. Rib VHS YouTube channel. Barely Sociable has also done a video about the incident. They are both very insightful, and I highly suggest you check them out. But this, oddly enough, would not be the end of mysterious Disney VHS tapes from the 90s. At this time, people allegedly began spotting strange details in tapings of popular movies and TV shows, predominantly from
That's pretty
Disney.
cool.
This, of course, started the legend of subliminal messages, which would soon become a favorite millennial buzz phrase. The idea was that these megacorporations were hiding secret symbols and inappropriate content in movies and TV media with the intent
want you
of
to buy more of their
corrupting the
movies and
minds
go to
of children.
Disneyland.
This included lewd imagery
And
and
spend
even mentions of
thousands
supposed
of
secret
dollars
societies hidden in
for a
Little
hot
Mermaid,
dog.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Lion King, and many other things. Arguably one of the most popular examples of this
Yeah, it's
comes
plugged in
from
and
the
everything
movie
too, the
The
TV.
Rescuers, where a photograph of a naked woman allegedly
Yeah,
appears
this actually
in a
happened.
window in the background. The origin of this image is actually still unknown to this day, and it only appears for a couple of frames. In fact, most of these only appear for very brief moments. That is because a lot of this media was produced during a time where only live broadcasting and theater showings of entertainment were publicly available. You couldn't just go in and rewind something. This luxury didn't come along until the 70s and the 80s, with the rise of Betamax and VHS, with the latter exploding in popularity in the 90s.
Oh,
That
definitely.
is when these people finally started catching on to all these strange hidden details. But is any of it true? Well, I'm gonna put both yes and no for this one. Yes, these things can in fact be found in these movies and shows. It hasn't been doctored by online users, but I don't think there's anything nefarious behind it. I think it's just a bunch of animators and editors goofing around by sneaking in adult humor. The animator that hid the naked woman in The Rescuers allegedly did so because she was passed on a promotion by Disney and was eventually even let go.
That's funny.
Other examples include
it's a
the
cardboard
infamous
cutout.
ghost that appears in the background of Three Men and a Baby. This was actually just a cardboard cutout of Ted Danson that was accidentally left on the set, which just so happens to be much scarier than a ghost.
A lot of the stuff they won't even put on Disney Plus. You gotta find it on. Actually, there's a lot of it on
Archive.
Archive.
These weren't always real either. Another very popular example involves
Yeah, there's a bunch of that
dead
stuff on
munchkin
Archive.
that is supposedly visible in the background during a scene in The Wizard of Oz. The earliest records of this story date as far back as 1993, and there are two versions of this footage. The first one shows something that resembles a large bird flapping its wings. And the second one shows a version that much more closely resembles the shape of a person, which I can't show because YouTube understandably took down the original upload of this that I made, but you can always Google it yourself to see what I am referring to. But this story takes a bit of a weird turn. If you've followed this urban legend for some time, you may have been told that the bird flapping its wings was digitally added in to hide this human-shaped figure. But actually, the bird version came first. And weirdly enough, this was actually the version of the clip that sparked the urban legend back in the early 90s.
As they disappear around the corner, if you're not looking at them, if you look at the screen behind them, you can see the shadow.
For whatever reason, people thought that this bird flapping its wings resembled a dying person. But this same bird can actually be seen in other parts of the same scene in the background. If you're like me and have no idea how people came to this conclusion in the first place, you're not alone. In fact, that is most likely why another hoax version of the scene appeared in around 2011, with this narrative attached to it, likely to make the whole story more believable. The reason I know this is because I was there. By a crazy coincidence,
yeah, for real.
I just so happened to be obsessively studying this story the very same day this hoax video came out back in 2011. It was around March at the time. And I remember being surprised that a new version of the clip appeared. Other channels at the time that are now lost very quickly started debunking it, even mentioning that part of the bird's wing is still visible from this doctoring. Before this version came out, I remember being so confused why people thought this bird resembled a person.
Yeah, I
in
don't
short,
get it either.
it was a legend that started from people seeing things, and then when another hoax version of it appeared, it further reinforced it. Either way, it is just another byproduct of these many strange stories that originated from movie and television tapings of the time. There have been a few instances throughout television history, particularly children's television, where a program aired that was deemed so disturbing by audiences that it was quickly removed from broadcasting and even completely locked away in studio archives, never to be seen again. In the late 90s, it was rumored that Nickelodeon began working on a horror movie called Crybaby Lane. It was scheduled to be aired on the SNCC programming block during the Halloween season in 2000. The movie centered around two brothers and their group of friends who live in a small town.
Man.
This town is the home of a legend surrounding two conjoined twins, one good and one evil. When the twins died, the town's undertaker cut them in half with a saw and buried them separately. During a seance that the kids partake in as a joke, the ghosts of these twins begin to terrorize the town, even possessing
Paramount Plus.
one
There we
of
go.
their
That's
brothers.
the one that has all the
Nick.
Nickelodeon stuff.
Yeah, to no surprise,
But I know this movie's
it was
on
reported
YouTube.
that kids who saw this broadcast were absolutely traumatized by it, and so parents made angry complaints to Nickelodeon Studios about it. It got so out of control, Nickelodeon was rumored to have completely locked the film away, didn't have any copies made for distribution, and chose to never air it again. They essentially buried this movie and acted like it never existed. People had anecdotal stories and eyewitness accounts of those who watched the broadcast the night it aired, but that was all they could really rely on. Its ambiguous whereabouts further added to the mystery, even inspiring some creepypasta stories. And so, Crybaby Lane soon remained a legend and lost film
Nickelodeon
over
used
the
to be
next
awesome.
decade. But then in 2011, the full movie was uploaded
There we go.
to YouTube. Someone who watched the broadcast that night just so happened to tape it, confirming that this legend was in fact true. Now, I watched Crybaby Lane, and it's really not that scary. Even compared to something like Courage the Cowardly Dog and other children's horror, it's pretty freaking tame. I mean, Jim Gaffigan is in it, for crying out loud. But given that the film's plot revolves around things like dismemberment and possession, especially during a time where the satanic panic was still pretty fresh, it makes sense why a lot of parents would be outraged. That same year it resurfaced, Teen Nick decided to air it a second time during their 90s Rewind programming block. And so, the internet was able to resurrect Crybaby Lane through a seance of its own.
That's so
For this
cool.
last one, I surprisingly could not find a whole lot
Hell
of
yeah.
information.
I love
to the
Doug.
point where I was doubting that it was even a real concern at the time. But as I kept digging, it got a bit weirder. I am talking about the concept of a VHS tape virus.
Oh, hey, like the
During
Ring.
the height of commercial tape distribution, rumors started going around that certain companies were infecting their tapes with essentially rogue software. What seemed like an innocent videotape was actually programmed to destroy both your VCR and itself if anyone attempted to copy from it. This was done to help combat piracy. Many of these tapes would even come with stickers disclosing this. I actually
Alcohol and the
almost didn't
brain.
include this in my video because of the little information I found and just how ridiculous of a concept it is. The only thing I initially could find directed me to an Etsy page, so I assumed that this was just some meme that a nostalgia page
I was
created
watching
a couple of years
Silver
ago.
Bullet
But then I
on there
started
the other
searching
day.
for just random
Stephen King
videotapes
movie.
online, and then I found eBay listings in the wild of VHS tapes that had these stickers on them. I
Oh.
think this lends a lot of
Gravity
credence
sucks.
to the idea that this was indeed a thing back in the 90s. I even found a forum post from 2005 talking about it. But is it real? Were
Yeah, I was
there
just looking through
commercial
the channels
VHS
on
tapes
Pluto. I was
going
like, oh,
around with
Silver bullet,
viruses
sweet.
on them? I'm gonna say no. The stickers on these tapes reference a company called Scattervision, which I assume is a competitor of the popular Macrovision, a company which specialized in VHS copyright protection. However, when searching through newspapers.com, I could not find any record that a company called Scattervision ever existed. And even if it did, Macrovision was already a much more efficient and safer way of fighting piracy. Macrovision worked by essentially altering the video signal in a way where your TV screen could still play it normally, but the VCR would get insanely confused when you
That's
tried
awesome.
to record it. Therefore, if you tried copying a Macrovision protected tape, you would get something that's unwatchable. This is a much
Didn't
better
look like
method than
that.
creating something that just destroys expensive equipment when you try to make copies with it. There is no
It would mess
commercial
with the
incentive
color.
for that.
It would
It
go
isn't
darker
exactly
and then lighter. That's
technologically
what Macrovision
practical
did.
either. Yes, you can install computer software on tape. In fact, a lot of personal computers from the 70s and 80s used software from cassettes that stored the program data as modulated audio signals. But these personal computers are also programmed to look for these signals and turn them into tangible data. VCRs don't do that.
I don't
So
like
even if you
quiet,
did
like when I'm trying to
successfully
sleep.
install a virus on a VHS tape, it's still not gonna do anything. Just for this reason. This was most likely just a scare tactic companies used on naive people back in the 90s. Though I am tempted to buy one of these tapes and test it out for myself. Let me
Sweet.
know if you'd like to see that. If you'd
Yes,
like
I
to learn
would.
more outlandish computer viruses or other strange 90s media, you can find those videos right here. A special thanks to my Patreon supporters. Check out patreon.com/nationsquid, or you can even buy me a coffee. Thank you for watching, everyone.
Cool.
In November 2011,
Hey,
a
we
brand
already
new
watched
account on
that.
YouTube would upload its first video.
Let's see. Watch that. Oh, we watched that too. What is this? Oh, yeah. Internet
Annie Bell
mysteries.
Hanna was 27 years old when she went missing. On the morning of April 10th, 1952, she got up and went to work at her local Walgreens pharmacy in Syracuse, New York. She would never come back home. There aren't many photos of Annie, but we do have these two taken shortly after one another.
Oh, yeah.
When you
I
put them under
totally
a
understand
minor
that.
restoration, you can see that Annie had a nice smile and bright eyes. Unfortunately, little was ever found about her disappearance, and she is still missing to this day. Let's fast forward a little bit. It's now July of 1988, and a 12-year-old boy is digging in his backyard when he comes across something terrifying.
Oh, no.
Beneath the dirt are the skeletal remains of a young woman who has been buried there head first. She's believed to have died in the late 50s to early 60s, which was well before the 12-year-old boy's house was even built. Investigators would be dispatched and, after assessing the remains, would come to the conclusion that the cause of death was homicide, despite the fact that the woman's body exhibited no signs of trauma. This was due to the suspicious nature of her death, and she was most likely a teenager when she died. Unfortunately, the true identity of the deceased woman has never been determined. She has been nicknamed Irondequoit Jane Doe after the town where she was discovered. You may not be familiar with this case, but you have likely seen some of the facial reconstructions made in the 80s by William Rodriguez.
Hey,
These
oh,
show
yeah.
a pale and uncanny figure
That.
whose teeth are exposed and eyes are wide. The reconstruction was done with clay and features
Science
a
is
wig
cool,
on
man.
top. This next reconstruction
I love
was done
science.
with pencils and shows a similar yet different take on what Irondequoit Jane could have looked like. Nonetheless, the drawing is very eerie. whether it be because the eyes are piercing or because we know that this girl potentially suffered a horrific death. Most recently, this version was created by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Oh, neat.
It's 3D and shows a side-to-side rendering. What's interesting is that this young girl disappeared in the 1950s, and it's hard to believe that in a small town like Irondequoit, nobody would bat an eye. You would think that a missing child would lead to some sort of news coverage.
Well, it's like the
some
Cropsey
type
stuff
of written
that happened.
evidence. But as far as we know, it's like this girl never existed in the first place. This has led a lot of people to believe that the girl was not a local, but instead from another city. Perhaps this city was Syracuse, and Irondequoit Jane Doe is actually Annie Bell Hanna.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know.
Annie's work was roughly an hour and 20 minutes away from where Irondequoit Jane
I think if
Doe
we had
was eventually
the science
found.
we have now back
When it
then,
comes down to the
he
few
would have been able
details
to
that we
murder
do
maybe
know,
one woman,
they match up
and that's it, and he would have been
surprisingly
caught,
well.
because he was
Annie was
sloppy.
said to be
Like, he
between
didn't give a
5'2"
shit, because
and
it was so hard to
5'5",
catch people back then.
Irondequoit Jane was estimated to be between 4'10" and 5'5". Annie disappeared in 1952, which aligns almost perfectly with Irondequoit Jane's post-mortem interval of 30 years. This is just a theory, however.
Yeah.
There are a number of different possibilities as to the true identity of Irondequoit Jane Doe, and as internet mysteries go, this one has remained unsolved. The cases of Annabelle Hanna and Irondequoit Jane Doe are a lot easier than
I love
the
that
case
shelf back
we are
there.
about to cover.
And the
I'm gonna do my
Frankenstein
best
mask
to
and
talk
everything.
about it in a way that meets YouTube's community guidelines, but for an uncensored version as well as a descriptive reading of a
It's very
woman's
interesting.
final journal entry, please consider subscribing to the Something Sinister Patreon, link in the description below. There you get early, ad-free, uncensored content, as well as the opportunity to talk to me directly and let me know what kind of content you would like to see. You also get to be a part of this wonderful community, which shows at the end of
Bobo
every
Jenkins.
Something Sinister upload, and you get all of this for the low
Leroy
price of
Jenkins.
$5 a month. Link in the description. Okay, on with the video. LiveJournal is a blogging platform that was created
Oh my God,
in
LiveJournal.
1999. For many, it served as an online diary and a means of
Can't
sharing
believe that's
one's
still around.
thoughts. In 2003, user Delia Day would begin writing about her life as a female sex slave. Routine readers would become
I know
accustomed
about this.
to
I've heard about
reading
this in other
about
videos.
Delia's relationship with her partner, who she would often describe
Mhm.
as dominant, often subjecting
I saw that.
her
That's
to
nuts.
sexual practices involving pain, both mentally and physically. She would refer to this partner as her owner. After reading through some of the comments left on her entries, I was surprised by the amount of people feeding into Delia's pain. This comment, listed under one of Delia's entries, reads, "You are a totally adorable and gorgeous person. It's obvious you love each other very much. I wish you many, many years of accepting each other so thoroughly and having lovely, painful, intense experiences together."
Ew.
On December 1st, 2003,
Oh.
Delia would make her final post
I don't like that
to
comment at
LiveJournal
all.
before something horrible happened. The entry is titled "Locked Up Tight." Here, Delia says that she was doing some work around the house before her owner returned home around 2 p.m. From here, the owner does something horrific to her. He opens up a padlock and puts it around her private parts. Delia explains the discomfort she
Why?
experiences in detail,
Ugh.
but says that she wants to please her owner. She fears that he will not be unlocking the padlock anytime soon, and this is where the entry ends. In the early hours that night, Delia's owner would die from a shotgun blast to the chest.
What?
And police investigations would reveal a number of previously unknown details. These include the fact that Delia Day's name was actually Susan Anton. Susan had created the Delia Live Journal as a means of expressing her deviant sexual desires. This included extreme forms of BDSM, like Delia, or Susan's, husband sticking clothespins all throughout her face. Throughout all of this, Susan was a consenting partner.
I went and saw that
would
shit in the
often
theater,
speak
man.
highly of her husband or owner in her live journal entries. Their friends and family, however, knew nothing of these erotic adventures they took with one another, nor the Delia Day live journal itself. These details, however, would inevitably be shared throughout the news and other media when the following article was released, reading,
I was like, I'm going to see
may
that.
have caused the violent death of Travis Anton. He was found dead from a shotgun wound to the chest at the early age of 33 years old. Susan would be jailed following this.
Did she do it?
Ultimately released after a grand jury decided that Travis's murder was in self-defense. The exact events leading up to Travis's death remain somewhat of a mystery. Susan's release has caused people to believe that maybe their sex life was not as consensual as written about on the blog. This assumption has even led some people to believe that Travis was the one actually writing the blog the entire time. It was later revealed that the site was even registered under his name, even though Susan was supposedly the author. This would make the entire LiveJournal catalog even more disturbing. As mentioned before, the blog goes at lengths to praise Travis and his love. If he were to be the actual author,
he's such a
it's
good
like reading
guy.
what he wished Susan would have said.
He tries to kill me nightly, but he's a
Susan
great
has since
guy.
created a blog titled Invisible Survivor, where she went into more depth about the matter, but it has since been deleted, further pushing the question at hand: who is the true author of the Delia Days live journal?
Hello? What's happening?
This is a clip from a video called Persephone Numbers Station.
Okay.
It's a nearly 4-minute clip of black and white footage featuring a distorted woman. Throughout the clip, amidst the strange frequency sounds, she clearly says a pattern of numbers. When written out, they read like this. If you use translation from the American Standard Code of Information Interchange, the numbers read evident agenda. This form of code is not exclusive
what
to
is
the
this?
Persephone Numbers Station video. In fact, numbers stations are shortwave broadcasts of numbers, or sometimes Morse code, that carry important information. While this video uploaded by Cap'n Sonic has 2.9 million views, it was actually originally uploaded in 2006 and is now part of a partially lost ARG. The original upload shows a darker version of the video.
Sometimes ARGs are cool.
But the woman appears to be upside down in the frame. The phrase spoken by the woman, evident agenda, was a password that players of the ARG needed to access a certain website. The ARG is known as the Lost Experience. And was designed by the writers and producers of
I used to love that show.
famous Lost TV show
Until it got really
to engage
stupid.
fans and expand on the storyline during the hiatus between
That show got really
season
dumb.
2 and season 3. So while we know where the audio comes from, who is the woman featured in Persephone Numbers Station? The image itself is very reminiscent of Why You Never Became a Dancer, which featured an alter photograph of a young woman who was the victim of a Japanese serial killer.
Ooh.
Well, as a part of the Lost ARG, on May 3rd of 2006, the following video was uploaded.
Oh yeah.
Welcome to the Hansel Foundation, where you can experience all of the social and scientific endeavors we are pioneering to make your world a better place. On your left here, please choose any of our programs to see exactly what we're working on, or find more content here and here. Make sure you also sign up to our newsletter so the Hansel Foundation can keep you up to date on our latest exciting developments. Thank you and namaste.
What you just saw was the intro to the Hanso Foundation website, which was a special website that players of the ARG could access with the aforementioned
I remember the
Evident
Hanso Foundation from the show.
The woman shown in the video shares a very close resemblance to the woman shown in the Persephone Number Station video.
I know.
While this is not confirmed, it's hard to deny their resemblance to
the
one
YouTube
another.
search function is so
This woman
weird
has not been identified,
because it doesn't
nor does her
have
character have a name
like the right
of
filters
ARG
it should have.
itself. As such, the true identity of
they need
the
to make it like
Persephone
have
Number
the
Station
some of
figure
the stuff that eBay
remains a
has.
mystery.
That would be nice.
If you've made it this far into the
or like
video,
archive.
please consider subscribing to Something Sinister, as I post content like this all the time.
The filters that
Here
Archive
is
has are
our
awesome.
final mystery. On March 12th
I love that shit.
of this year, Reddit user CoolManRebro posted this
CoolManRebro.
photograph with the following caption. I saw this picture today on Instagram, and it was the first picture on a video explaining an urban legend called Class After 6 o'clock. I think this image was supposed to be a floating teacher or something, but I couldn't find anything on that urban
floating
legend
teacher.
online really. I reverse image searched it and found a couple of the same image, but nothing really leading to what it actually is or what the origin is. Does anybody know any info on this image? It seems to be from a non-English speaking origin, but I'm not entirely sure. The photo itself shows what appears to be a classroom full of students. Towards the center of the frame is what we can assume is their teacher.
I think he's just
the
jumping.
image is edited to look like your typical sensational YouTube thumbnail with the red circle and an
The arrow,
pointing to it.
What is
Photo
this?
often seen accompanying
I made a
an
thumbnail like that once. I felt like an
Indonesian
idiot.
story where
Back in my other
students had
channel.
night lessons. This was acknowledged briefly in the Reddit post with the title "Class
I was
After
like, what am I
6
doing?
o'clock." If the photograph is indeed Indonesian in origin, what's actually going on with the teacher at the front of the room? Are they actually floating, or is this all just a case of mistaken identity? When doing a reverse image search, you can find results for this Japanese website, which highlights the strange photograph. The rumor says that this is a night class, and when the kids showed up,
Yeah,
the teacher was standing
you know,
at the front of the room in silence.
They took away all the
At
fun
this point,
stuff.
the students
Apparently, they're
received a
thinking about
message
bringing
from the teacher
messaging
via
back.
email that says,
Which I was like,
I can't
hell
come to class
yes.
after all. The students
Hold on,
look up
yeah.
in horror,
He's
realizing
just a
that
really
the
big fan
strange
of Modest
person that
Mouse.
looks like their teacher is in fact some sort of imposter. Following these stories, it would be revealed that the image was taken by an Indonesian student at a university. The university's public relations director would make a video stating that the stories and rumors accompanying this image have tarnished the university's image,
Oh,
and
that
that there
sucks.
is nothing strange or supernatural about it. The photo was said to have been initially
What
posted
was
to
that person's
Facebook.
name?
However, it has never been confirmed. All
Masuk
we have
on
is
what?
this blurry screenshot that was exchanged via text
Or that word?
messages between students at the university. Given that the
Un-
internet
un-
tends to
unfook?
sensationalize these things, it wouldn't surprise me if this photo was actually
Is
something
that how you pronounce it?
completely mundane
Unfook?
and taken drastically out of context. But I suppose one can never be too sure.
Okay, let me see something. Let's go to the main page of YouTube. Yeah, see, it's just like, look, there's a search thing here, and you know, like, music, video. I never use a keyboard. There we go. And it's like you can't do anything else. That's it. What are the filters? Let's see. Type, sort by upload date, video, under 4 minutes, features, sort by upload date. See, like you can't even, yeah. It would be cool if you could sort by year. Oh, this guy's this year. Over 20 minutes. Oh, that's neat. You can. Yeah, they definitely need better search functions on here. Oh, there we go. Alrighty. Well, that'll be it for this cool Funtime Hangout. And guess what? There's going to be another one Monday. Because I want to watch more videos and I have other stuff that I want to check out. And I want to do some other fun things. Like I actually want to, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I actually want to try to make some stuff online. Like I want to AI up some stuff and show people how I make things and how I make the actual good things with AI that I make, not the sloppy shit. I've been wanting to do that for a while, mess around with AI on stream, just to show people it's not as scary and crazy as you think it is. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, Cody. Thanks for stopping by, Kev. Thanks to that other person, the mobile games person, that whatever your name was. Thank you for subscribing and thank you for stopping in. Really appreciate that. That's very cool. And until Monday, I will see you later.